ICQ Podcast episode 460, Ham Radio Friedrichshafen 2025, part 1. Well, hello fellow Maritime radio enthusiasts and welcome to the 460th episode of your ICQ Maritime Radio Podcast. Supported in this episode by Dino Papas, Kilo Lima Zero Sierra, Philip Heckingbottom, VK6 Alpha Delta Foxtrot, and our monthly and annual subscription donors. In this episode, we join Martin M1MRB, Dan KB6 November Uniform, Caryn KD2 Golf Uniform Tango, Edmund Mike 0 Mike November Golf, and Edmund DD5 Lima Papa to discuss the latest Maritime radio news. Myself, Colin M6BRY, rounds up the news in brief, and this episode's feature is our first part of our review on Ham Radio 2025 in Friedrichshafen, Germany. Well, as always, it's your very kind support that keeps your ICQ Amateur Radio podcast advert free and published for you at least every fortnight. And this episode, we'd like to thank Dina Papas, Kilo Lima 07, who says, happy 17th birthday, keep up the great work, look forward to the show every 2 weeks. So Dino, realised it was our 17th birthday month this month, the month of July. And as did Philip Heckingbottom, and he said, Colin and Martin, if I'm not mistaken, I believe July is ICQ Ham Radio Podcast birthday month. Any time to show a small donation, another great year of the podcast, great year of the talk group. So thanks a lot to Phil, so VK6 Alpha Delta Foxtrot. So both guys are right, Dino and Philip are right, that this month is our birthday month, and as I say, it's an opportunity for you to share the value that you get from the show by visiting ICQPodcast.com/donate, where, as I say, you can turn the value you got from the ICQ podcast over the last year into a monetary figure. And all you need to do then is either select our pre-filled option, which celebrates our birthday, or you can choose your own value and set up a subscription donation if you wish, and that continues to show your support for the show, and we really would appreciate it. So let's go to ICQPodcast.com/donate. Right, well now we're going to head on and enjoy the rest of our show today. It's going to be a little bit of a long one. We're going to join Martin, Dan, Caryn, Edmund and Ed to discuss and generate thoughts about the latest Amateur radio news, including time to bring back leadership courses and POTA Activator tragically dies. As always, hope you enjoy.
Well, hi guys, and welcome to the ICQ Podcast, episode 460, and tonight's news roundtable for that episode. Tonight, I'm joined by Mr. Dan Romanchik KB6NU. Hi, Dan.
Good evening, Martin, and good evening, fellow presenters, and good evening, listeners.
Yeah, good evening to everybody, and you sounding in fine form tonight, Dan, so it's going to be a good one. Okay. Staying your side of the pond, we have Caryn Eve Murray KD2GUT. Hi, Caryn.
Hello, Martin, and hello, everyone. We're ready for this one.
We are. Moving back to my side of the pond with Mr. Edmund Spicer, who spent a week in Germany with me. Mr. Edmund Spicer M0MNG. Hi, Edmund.
Hello, Martin. Hello, everybody.
That's good to hear you. And also in Germany, because he lives there, Mr. Ed Durrant DD5LP, who was with us at Friedrichshafen. Hi, Ed.
Yeah, hi, Martin. Good evening, everybody, from the centre of Europe to the whole of the world.
Yeah, that's not a bad way of putting it, Ed. Not a bad way of putting it. Right. Well, let's crack on a bit because we have quite a few to do. And those who like long podcasts, I think you're going to get one because there's quite a lot in the feature. Right, let's start with this one. Dan, this was on your website, so I'm going to get you go first in a minute, but is it time to bring back the club leadership course? Now, we were discussing this, and I think sometimes people have all the right intent or want to have a title, but they haven't had any training in life to do the roles that they're picking up for a club. So do they fail badly, or do they just go very quiet because they haven't been trained in what is required? Dan, over to you.
Well, thank you. So I'll give you a little bit of the background to this. About 10 or 15 years ago, it's been a while now, actually, I was actually the affiliated club coordinator for the Michigan section. And I'm also a member of the local Rotary Club. And I got involved with what was called the Rotary Leadership Institute. And the purpose of the Rotary Leadership Institute was to provide leadership training to Rotarians, more so new Rotarians, but anyone wanting to take a Rotary Club leadership role. So after going through the training to be a facilitator and learning about that curriculum, I thought to myself, hey, a lot of this stuff could be applicable to amateur radio clubs. So I developed a similar kind of course. I adapted a lot of it, so it's not exactly the same, but I adapted this material to help train leaders of amateur radio clubs. And we held the session a couple of times and went over pretty well. People seemed to like it and said they got something out of it. The section leadership changed and they weren't quite so interested in it anymore, and I couldn't get the national ARRL to be interested in it, so I just sort of let the project slide. But about 2 or 3 weeks ago, I got a email from a fellow who said he wanted to revise this course and offer it to people. So that was the impetus for my blog post. And I've gotten some good feedback on the blog post saying, yeah, people seem to think that this would be good. So the upshot of all this is I might be revising the materials, offering the course again. And now with the way things are, making it online is even a possibility. It's like a self-guided online course. So, yeah, that's the story. Like I say, it covers a lot of some basic leadership stuff. In fact, the first module is called Leadership Characteristics and just talks about leadership in general. And anybody could decide they wanted to be more of a leader could take that particular module. But then there's other modules that deal more specifically with amateur radio. So yeah, that's the story, and I'd say stay tuned. We might be doing this again in the future.
Yeah, well, it sounds good, Dan. And the other thing is, we can't all be good at all things. Some of us are leaders, some of us are doers, some of us are consumers, all the bit away across the board. But if you are thinking of doing something within a club or an organisation, these skills really will help. And, even the ones that maybe you're not particularly good at, the skills you're not particularly good at least you'll understand what the person doing the job is trying to achieve. So I think it's a good one there, Dan. Caryn, what's your thoughts on this one?
Well, I'm thinking along the lines of I don't know if there is a phrase I have heard before, or maybe I'm just making it up right now. A good leader is made, not born, which I think to some degree is true. Here's the thing. If we are looking for clubs to accommodate the changing face of amateur radio, the more diverse population of hams across age and cultural identities, what we need are people who are as effective communicating within the club environment as so many of them are on the air. I mean, we can communicate fine with a mic or a key in our hand, but facing off against the membership, what is your management style? What is your leadership style? Can you support people? Unfortunately, clubs are groups of people, and people being people, there's an awful lot of the social dynamic to consider. And in order to be an effective leader, you have to manage that. You have to learn to deal with personalities. And you also need to keep your eye on the prize. What is the objective of the club? As clubs grow in size, Many of them get divided up into little cliques, which can be counterproductive for both the health and the growth of the club. This is, I guess, a natural dynamic. But again, a leader needs to be sensitized to these possibilities. Likewise, just within being an officer, knowing the nuts and bolts of being a treasurer, secretary, things like that. Again, this would outline job descriptions and really make for smoother interaction among the leadership. So I think it's time. I don't know who this would fall to. Perhaps there are a number of different organizations that can provide resources to clubs. Not all clubs are members of the ARRL. Maybe it should not fall to the ARRL necessarily, but there might be some training courses, as Dan has alluded to. Doing something online is certainly good, provided I think it should be done live, only because if something is recorded, it tends to be passive on the part of the viewer. And I think what you're going for here is something personal and something interactive, because after all, that's what clubs are. They're personal and should be interactive. So, yeah, I think with the changing face of what clubs and the hobby are about, this is very much an idea whose time has come. Back to you, Martin.
Yeah, you made some interesting points there, Caryn. Edmund, you've spent over a week with me, and we talked about all sorts of things, including some management techniques and radio and all sorts. But hopefully, I haven't prepped you too much in this one, because I didn't know this news story was coming up. But I'm sure even our local clubs, we could think of people who could benefit from this.
Well, indeed. I started volunteering for various charities in the early 1990s, long before I got my amateur radio license. And I came to the conclusion very quickly that there were quite a few people on committees who didn't really do anything. And with some of them, it was because they just wanted the glory and the kudos of being a committee member, but then didn't want to do the work that went along with it. But there was also this other group of people who were lent on or pressurized into accepting roles on the committee, probably against their better judgment. And when they got there, they were then too proud, if that's the right word, to actually say in as many words, "Here, everybody, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm supposed to do." So if there was training of this nature available, then there could be quite a few people out there who are on committees or about to be on committees who could benefit from it, maybe even on the quiet, as it were, if they didn't want to ask for help publicly. So I think this would be a great thing. And if anybody listening to this thinks, I wouldn't benefit from something like that, I'm good at managing and leading people. I've been chairman of my local club for the last 30 years, so it automatically means that I'm good at what I do. Then anybody fitting that description probably would benefit from it even more than they think they wouldn't, if you see what I mean. Martin, back to you.
Can I throw in a quick word?
Go on, Dan.
So this is an English versus American English thing. You folks say the committee. Here in the U.S., we'd say the board of directors. So that's and along with that, you say the chairman of the committee. We'd say the president of the board. So that's just some semantics I'd throw in there for our listeners.
Yeah, it's strange, Dan, isn't it, to how we're supposed to speak the same language, but I'm not going to tell you what got me into a lot of trouble when I was out with Frank, but but we sometimes have different definitions. Now, Ed, have we left you anything to say on this one?
Well, yeah, just say all power to Dan's elbow if he does decide to revive and revise the training stuff from before. It certainly would be of value to a lot of people, and not just in the US, and probably not just in amateur radio clubs either, because all the points he's raised are relevant in any small organisation. So if you do decide to take it on, Dan, good luck. And if not, understand that, and maybe somebody else will.
Yeah, and I agree also with what you said, Ed, and what Edmund said. You know, if you have an open mind, and maybe you're not a leader, but you're somebody who does accounts. But if the course covers leadership skills, it'd be worth knowing what the leader does. So there's a lot more to it, and I would suggest don't just pick out one thing and think that's the one I need, because when you're working with a group in a management style or whatever, you should have a knowledge of everything that's going on. Not necessarily to be able to be the top dog, but a basic understanding. So I think it's a good one, Dan, and I wish you every success on it. And if you do one, hopefully I can join online. Right, move to our next news story, and this one's a bit of a sorry news story. A POTA activator dies in an electrocution accident, which sounds horrible. I'm going to pass it to Caryn first, because this guy was a well-known operator, I believe.
Yes, thank you, Martin. By now, almost everybody knows and probably has checked their logs to see whether they have worked N4NTO, Trip Owens. He was a very well-regarded amateur radio operator and POTA activator and a friend to many. The exact mechanics of how this tragedy came to be are not completely known, but on the 4th of July, he was at a park, and I believe ultimately it was determined it was during takedown, not during setup, that his carbon fiber mast made contact with overhead power lines. And we don't know whether the power lines made contact with the mast or vice versa, but there was contact, and it was sufficient to electrocute him. He was found unconscious in the parking lot. The emergency crew found him with his foot touching the mast, and they were just beneath the power lines. Again, there's a lot we don't know. What we do know is that there was contact, and that the contact was fatal, and he was electrocuted. And this is the point of this story. You can be as careful as can be going out into the parks or going out on your own property. You can only do so much to be extra careful. You're dealing with electricity, you're dealing with power lines. We hear about people falling from towers. There are hazards in doing amateur radio. Accidents nonetheless still happen. We believe this is a very important story because we want to honor Trip Owens for all his good work and allow people to grieve for him, and to let people know that they've got to be careful out there. Look around you. Look around you before you set up. What are some of the possibilities? Minimize the hazards. We may never know exactly the sequence of events that led to this. We only know the outcome. It was tragic in that park at it was US 11375, a battlefield historic site. And a very, very helpful post from Thomas Witherspoon on his QRPer website, reminding people and cautioning people. Please learn from this. And everybody out there who's hearing this, please be careful. Please be careful, because this is a hobby. It's not worth dying over, and I'm sure Trip Owens was not expecting to have this happen. So that's really the conclusion we can come to. It's the only one we can. So back to you, Martin.
Yeah, and as you say, safety first, and we can't knock the gentleman because we don't know exactly what went on. The outcome is the one that we need to bring into people's minds. Ed, what's your thoughts on this one?
I have nothing to add.
No? Okay. Edmund, do you have anything to add on this one?
Well, yes, condolences to his family and loved ones and everybody who knew him, and I hope that in the fullness of time it will be all his activations and successes on the air for which he will ultimately be remembered, and that his legacy of achievements won't be overshadowed by this one tragic event that came at the end of his life. If you're going out portable, look up in the air and look all around you, and make sure you actually look properly several times, because it is very easy to glance and to see but not properly look, if you understand what I mean. For example, many years ago at the local lighthouse for the Lighthouse weekend, the Worthing Club put up an absolutely enormous antenna, enormous in terms of its length. I think it was a dipole for 80 meters, possibly with loading in it for 160 meters. So it was very long from one end to the other. And it wasn't miles and miles up in the sky either. But for some reason, and I think from memory, it was a cloudy day, it was overcast. Even when we pointed out to members of the public that the antenna was up there, and most of them hadn't even spotted it at all, because human beings, in common with most animals, don't tend to look above their eye lines unless they see movement or unless they've got a particular reason to. But we had lots of visitors that weekend, and even when we pointed out that there was 40 plus meter long length of wire hanging up in the air, not massively high above their heads in the grand scheme of things, because there were these clouds, darkish clouds in the sky above it, when they looked up, it camouflaged the wire. So even though they knew it was there, a lot of them really had to look hard 2 or 3 or 4 times to actually see the thing. So do a really good recce when you're out portable, and if at all possible, don't put your antenna up anywhere even vaguely near overhead power lines, for another reason apart from safety, which is electrical noise. In some circumstances, particularly if there's recently been rain or mist, you can get colossal interference from overhead power lines. For example, less than a mile away from where I'm speaking to you now, there are some pylons carrying, I don't know the exact voltage, but I would say it's in the hundreds of kilovolts league. And if we have heavy rain or thick mist, sometimes on 80 meters, I can hear what sounds suspiciously like the sound of arcing over on some of the insulators, which presumably are on those overhead lines. So, yep, absolute tragedy. And please, 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 whatever you do when you're out portable, make sure that the same thing doesn't happen to you.
Yeah, got you, Edmund. Now, Dan, you go out and do a fair amount of POTA as well. You and I have a similar thought on this, but keeping yourself well clear, isn't it, Dan?
Yeah, this. There's a question on the U.S. technician class license test. It says something like, "How close should you put up an antenna with respect to power lines?" And the answer is nowhere near enough so that if the antenna structure falls down, it comes within 10 feet of the power lines, something like that. I forget the exact wording, but I'd almost say that's being too not being conservative enough. Fortunately, most POTA, at least the ones I've done, there haven't been overhead power lines. They're out in parks out in the country, and we usually don't see overhead power lines. In this case, I guess there were just more of them, but yeah, it's really a tragedy, and I'd almost say that if you can see a power line, you're too close to it. Of course, that's not exactly true, but yeah, just be safe. It's just that I hate teaching that portion of the class because I have to mention these tragic accidents.
Yeah, it is a tragic accident. Now I'm going to throw just one other thing in, purely because sometimes you might look at it and go, yeah, that's one of those, that's all right, and it might not be. But also, out in the country, there are often telephone lines that stretch between A and B. Certainly when there's a ring voltage on that line, there's in excess of 50 volts. Not enough to kill you, although 50 volts has killed people, but if you've got a weak heart on that. But the other thing is, it could damage your equipment if your pole hit down onto it. The other thing I would also say is, if you get complacent, that's only a telegraph pole, and it turns out it isn't, you could be in danger. So, like Dan says, I'm almost of the opinion of I don't want to be anywhere near this sort of thing. Because I don't want, if my antenna comes down, I don't want it to hit any line or a phone line either. Yeah, big tragedy. I think the rest of us have got to learn from that. That's all I'm going to say on that one. Right, move to our next news story. And I'm going to give this one to Caryn again. I stole this one straight off of Amateur Radio Newsline's report last week. Ohio girl YL was chosen as Newsline's Young Ham of the Year. Great news story there, Caryn. Over to you.
Yeah, how about that? Well, she's not the first YL, certainly, but she is this year's YL, Young Ham of the Year, the Bill Pasternak Memorial Young Ham of the Year. Katie Campbell, KE8LQR. Well, 2025 is the year of Katie Campbell. This is a bright, young amateur radio operator. And a disclaimer here, although I'm editor of Amateur Radio Newsline, I do not have anything at all to do with the selection process. That is done by a separate panel of judges. I deal only with the newscast. So as I talk about this, I will very quickly add that it was news to me too. And I was very pleased. I've met Katie. Katie really exemplifies leadership. And we were talking a little bit earlier about what leadership is. And she comes naturally to her leadership skills. She has been a speaker at a number of events. She has been to contest stations. She's done the Dave Coulter Youth De-Expedition. She's inspired people at Hamvention. She's mentored people. And she's on her way to Germany for a semester, I believe, for high school, which is going to be fabulous for Katie. So she really represents what it's all about. And I think it was a wonderful choice on the part of the judges. So we celebrate you, Katie, and we congratulate you, and we can't wait to see what you're going to do next. Back to you, Martin.
Yeah. Well, that's a good one. And she seems a very lucky lady. Both her parents, her mum and her dad, are licensed amateurs. So it's kind of in the blood, but that's not taken away from her. She's done a great job. She's a great ambassador from what I can see of our hobby. Dan, what's your thoughts?
Well, I love this selection. She seems a perfect choice, and I don't know what else I can say about that.
Yeah, I think perfect choice is the good one. Ed, what's your thoughts on this one?
It always surprises me every year that the award managed to find somebody different, but still actually almost better than the previous year. It's a reflection on the skills and the intelligence and the abilities of the young people these days that we are finding are coming into the amateur radio hobby. So well done, Katie, and long may she be part of our hobby.
Yeah, I agree with that one. And I hope that she'll enjoy the hobby. Chances are when she gets into the work environment, she won't be quite as available. But once the beauty of our hobby is once you've passed your exam, you're in the hobby for life. And you might have quiet periods where work commitment or study commitment is excessive. But you've got your license now, Katie, and yeah, I hope it all goes well for you. Edmund, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. Congratulations to Katie. And whilst being born into a family of radio amateurs undoubtedly helped, the good thing here is that her enthusiasm can ripple back and forth down the generations, because her grandfather on her mother's side also has a license, but I gather from the news story he hadn't been active recently, and it was Katie and what she's done that enthused him once again and has made him once again active. So she's very lucky to have her family, but equally, by the sounds of it, her family are very lucky to have her, and all power to her elbow. Well done, Katie.
Yeah, so all being all, a great news story, and congratulations, Katie. Right, let's move to the next one. Volunteers bring the last commercial maritime station back on the air for the 26th year. So, it's an interesting special event. Going to give this one to Edmund first, because I know Edmund likes special events, and this is kind of just interesting. What do you think, Edmund?
It's very interesting. It looks like these kind of radio stations closed down in the USA at around about the same time that they did in the UK. Because I think, was it GBR Rugby? Apologies if I got the call sign wrong. Closed down at around about the same time back in 1999. So the call sign to listen out for is Kilo 6 Kilo Papa Hotel, and that's on the 12th of July. So that is that the day that we release this podcast? Let me just look at the calendar. Oh no, it's not. It was yesterday. The podcast comes out the day after this happens, doesn't it? I've just realised. So it's a bit late, Martin. Perhaps we do need to pull it after all this story.
No, but it's an interesting news story, Edmund, so we'll leave it.
I can't say to people to listen out for it then, can I? Even if I had, well, I do know about this because we're recording this a few days beforehand, but it is, let's just say my very modest antenna farm is such, it's very unusual for me to hear any signals out of the US at all on any band and any mode. So even if my CW were perfect, and it's far from that, I doubt very much I would hear this station. But if you want to put a note in your diary for 12 months' time, July the 12th is the date that you need to be on the bands listening for Kilo 6 Kilo Papa Hotel, and good luck working the station in future years.
Yeah, and unfortunately, that's one of the problems of being a fortnightly podcast. Sometimes we find these news stories and they're really exciting, and as Edmund's just pointed out, it will have happened. But it, could do it for next year, and it just shows you what else is happening around the world at any one time. Ed, do you want to go next?
I've not got anything really to add except to underline that this is an event that does happen every year. And we've actually reported it on Amateur Radio Newsline last year, so that's why I was very happy to see it come up again. It seems to be something that's the coastal station, the coastal maritime stations, and a group of people got together to say we're not just going to let them die away. we're going to at least once a year power them up again and put them on the air. So yeah, good on them, and long may this continue to happen every year.
Yeah, I agree. Long may it need to happen. Now, Dan, we've given you a bit of a warning this is happening before the podcast goes out. And it's a CW event. So you likely to take part?
Well, so this, like Ed says, this has been an annual event. And when it ever comes up, that it's all the news on the CW mailing lists. I have not ever been able to work this station. It's in California, and I'm in Michigan, which is quite a ways away. But if anyone is interested in this operation, there are some YouTube videos which you can view to see how the station is operated. There's one operator in particular, who's a YL, in fact, who has a very good bug technique. So if you're at all interested in that, you can look up the videos on YouTube.
Yeah, that'll be a good one. Now, Caryn, we left you anything to say on this one, and equally, you're further away from it than Dan is.
Well, the only thing I have to add, I actually have worked California from my station here in New York, my humble 100-watt station. That is dependent on propagation more than anything else. I just want to add that the event is called Night of Nights, that the organization is the Maritime Radio Historical Society. Their website is radiomarine.org. Again, that's one word, radiomarine.org. And they've got some other things planned for later this summer, which we'll leave for another podcast, one in August. But it is a lovely gesture on the part of these volunteers. And that's really all I have to add at the moment.
Yeah, well, as I say, sorry guys, we were a bit late on getting this one to you, but it's sometimes worth letting you guys know that there are things happening and to look out for them another year. Moving on, and this one literally lit the blue touch paper a few hours ago, or an hour or so ago, because it got suddenly put into our news stories. Hamshack Hotline to be discontinued. Hamshack Hotline, the VoIP phone system that hams use, gone. Caryn, I'm going to give it to you again first because I think it was you put it in.
I'm the troublemaker. I messed with our lineup of stories and put it in. I cannot address it directly since I've never been a user of it, but I can tell you that a lot of people who I know, and a lot of people, are going to be very upset. This was a wonderful way for hams to connect with one another. They are going to be discontinuing this free service effective the 29th of August. It's grown over the years since 2018 when it began. It is well used. The fact that it's well used is probably part of the problem. This is free and all volunteer, and unfortunately, as with most things that are free and all volunteer, people have lives that they need to tend to also. And so they are heartbroken and overworked, and they're going to pull the plug, but they're giving folks about a month and a half to make other arrangements, which is a kindness. And speaking of kindness, they are going to take whatever cash reserves are left over at the end of their operation, and they will be announcing what charity they will be giving the funds to. It will be a charity, they said, that supports military veterans. So I think that's fabulous. Unless somebody steps up to the plate and decides to carry it forward, which they haven't addressed as of this recording, we'll be saying bye-bye in August. So sad news to report, but hopefully there are other options. Back to you, Martin.
Yes, Caryn, in some ways, I've been a bit unlucky and not been able to use this for the last couple of years. I changed the internet provider and got carrier grade natting, which meant I just couldn't connect to their servers. But in fairness, when I did have access, I had a VoIP phone in the shack, and a number of listeners used to sometimes ring me on the VoIP phone, and you could also listen to other radio stations by selecting a line that will put you in touch with the radio station. Dan, I know you've done some of this. What do you think?
Yeah, well, several months ago, I don't know, maybe close to a year ago now, one of our club members came into to possession of a whole bunch of these VoIP phones, and he was given them, and he gave them out to several of us. And so I got one, and I applied for a number, and I've had it connected here ever since. To be honest, I've only gotten a few calls on it, but it had other features, like you could listen to the BBC World Service over it, and I often did that. And there were other radio stations that you could listen to streaming online there. So it's a shame. It's a shame that this is going away. But having said that, there are other options, and two of them that I know of are amateur wire, and I think it's ham over VoIP or ham. I had it here and I've lost it now. But anyway, there are some options. So if any of you have these phones that are connected to hams over IP, that's the one I was thinking of. If any of you have these phones, you can also reprogram those phones to use these other services. So all is not lost. And like Caryn said, I think the deal was that they were so popular they were almost overwhelmed. Maybe it wasn't the equipment used, but there's always user support. That's always a killer, and they were always asking for volunteers, and I guess they just didn't get enough volunteers. But yeah, it was kind of a good service, and sorry to see it go.
Yeah, I'll be sorry to see it go, even though I couldn't access it. I enjoyed it when I had it. Edmund, have you got any thoughts on this one?
Like other people have said, I've never used Hamshack Hotline myself. I know in broad terms what it involved, but even so, I'm sad to hear that it's going, and hopefully something else or somebody else will come along and replace it and provide an equivalent kind of service. But beyond that, Martin, I can't really say anything from first-hand experience because I've never used it.
Right, understood. Now, Ed, did you ever use Hamshack Hotline? I mean, I know you spent a long time in IT like I did, and it was quite an interesting service if you did.
I once looked at using a non-Cisco IP phone with it, and talking to the people there, they said, forget it. Unless you use some of the standard phones, it's just a nightmare to support. And I think that's part of the problem they've got. Even though the service was free, but obviously they were making some money if they've got money in the coffers to give to charity at the end. But basically, it's a lot of support. And I also wonder whether the time's just taken over. When Hamshack Hotline came along, the social media groups were basically text messaging systems, even just a few years ago. But now, if you look at any of the text messaging systems or the social media systems, they all seem to have the capability of telephone calls as well. So in a lot of ways, you can have a group of particular amateurs on one of the social media channels, and they can also call each other through the same system from the smartphones. So in a lot of ways, I think Hamshack Hotline and the other services may have been overtaken by technology. Back to you, Martin.
Well, you're probably right, and this was somebody who didn't have. Well, I do own 2 Cisco phones now, but at the time, I took my old VoIP phone, which was connected to my router when I got rid of my VoIP account, and it was a bit more difficult to set up a non-Cisco, and you were put onto a slightly different server, but it was doable.
Yeah, some were, some weren't.
The one I had, Grandstream, I think worked, but as I say, haven't used it for a couple of years, so can't really say too much more about it, but when I had it, it was great. Right. Moving to our next news story, a grant to aid Clublog operation upgrade. So Clublog are upgrading. This is something that I never use, and I know the rest of you are thinking I'm a bit strange. Ed, I'm going to give you this one first. What are your thoughts?
Okay, well, Clublog is a system run by an amateur in the UK. It's been around for quite a few years, and it's the de facto place that DXpeditions use. It has services like OQRS, Online QSL Requesting System, where if you work a DXpedition somewhere, you can go there and request a QSL card to be sent out, and that's relayed through the QSL manager that belongs to the DXpedition, etc., etc. So it's a very valuable service, not only for DXpeditioners, but it's certainly where a DXpedition would normally go as their first choice. And they're doing a upgrade to their systems because basically they've got so much success. They've got, 1.25 billion QSOs through the system. So basically the hardware they've been using for a while is sort of showing its age. They're going for a more secure, cutting-edge, high-powered server solution. And they've got a grant from this DX Foundation have given them it. DX Foundation press release, yes. So they've got a grant to finance some new servers and new environment, and so at the same time upgrading, better security, etc., etc. So, yeah, onwards and upwards for Clublog. Back to you, Martin.
Yeah, sounds interesting. Dan, what's your thoughts on this?
Well, I think this is a great grant. This is a very popular service. You know, I'm in the CW ops, and they have their weekly. They don't call it a contest, but it's a weekly contest, and everybody reports their results on Clublog. So I think this is great, and obviously the X Foundation thinks it's great, and good. It's good that it'll continue.
I think so. Now, Caryn, you've actually used this service as well, haven't you?
Yes, indeed. I chase DX and I chase DXpeditions. I'm not a heavy duty user of it, but I have found it extremely useful. So I applaud the Northern California DX Foundation for their grant, which can only bring better service, I think. Back to you, Martin.
Well, I think it's great that any improvement in service is good. Now, Edmund, if you can hear us, what's your thoughts?
I'm not a DXer and I've never used Clublog, so there's nothing I can add really. Sorry.
Okay, mate. Well, we'll leave that one in and move to the next one. So, Ed, you've had a lot of involvement early on when it happened in Germany, the WRTC, but this is happening the weekend the podcast goes out. But they're doing some testing in the UK for 2026, testing out equipment and that. So what's your thoughts, Ed?
The World Radio Sport Team Championship, otherwise known as the Amateur Radio Olympics, happens every 4 years. And when it was in Germany in 2018, I was involved with it as a volunteer. So I have a little bit of knowledge of the behind the scenes, if you like, of what goes on. There is an awful lot of organisation. There is an awful lot of planning and testing. This weekend, as this podcast is released, the team for the UK in 2026 are out with 5 stations set up at one of the locations that's going to be used next year. And they will be testing out all the equipment. They'll be testing out the logistics. They'll be testing out basically everything they can so they can tell if there's going to be a problem next year. They can solve it before the time comes around. In this case, there's 5 stations going on. They'll have special call signs. Call signs are going to be GB number WR, and the numbers 0, 2, 5, 8, and 9 of the 5 of them. And they'll be operational on sideband and CW during the IARU HF Championship on 80 to 10 meters. So if you hear them, give them a call. And there's also a small certificate you can win if you work them. All information on the website, of course, WRTC2026.org. And good luck to them with the tests. Hopefully they find no problems at all. But if they do find the problems, they've got a year to fix them. Over to you, Martin.
Yeah, that's a good one. You obviously want to test and make sure things are working right. So that's a good one. And we'll see how it goes. Dan, what's your thoughts on this one?
Well, I'll tell you the truth, I don't really know that much about WRTC, so I think I'll pass on this one.
Yeah, okay. It's only reason I know because I've been talking to Mark Haynes, who's organised it. Edmund, do you want to comment next?
Well, if people want to work these call signs, then they'll need to do it on the day that the podcast is released. And I hope at some point they will make entries on QRZ.com, because most of these call signs don't have any entries on QRZ.com. And although a special event call sign can have 2 or 3 letters at the end, 3 is more often counted than 2. So without entries on QRZ.com, it's possible that people could work these stations and then wrongly believe that they've missed a letter out of the call sign. Back to you, Martin.
Yeah, that's an interesting thought on that one, Edmund. So, yeah, it's happening this weekend. Caryn, have we left anything to say on this one?
Only one thought, which is, gosh, this is 1 year in advance. And I do believe in testing systems. I think that's critical. Really, you don't fly without a test drive first. I just wonder, a lot can happen in a year. I wonder if they're going to have to do another test next year, right before the event itself. But at least this test will show any glaring errors, or at least I hope it will. Back to you.
Yeah, well, not a lot we can say about this. We'll know more after the test, and I'm hopefully get hold of Mark and his team in Newark later this year at the National Hamfest in the UK. So hopefully that'll be a good one. Right, let's find out what the guys have been up to since the last time we got together on the podcast. We always go ladies first, Caryn, so over to you.
Okay, we'll begin with Field Day, which has come and gone. I did Field Day this year as a guest with a smaller club I'm not a member of, but I was welcomed very warmly to this club and their operations, which took place in pop-up tents, which is really nice. To me, Field Day should be an outdoor event. And not only were these tents great and the atmosphere great, the food wasn't bad either. A lot of us were joking that Field Day, FD, also stands for Food Day. And it was a wonderful day, which began earlier in the afternoon with an eyeball QSO with a YL I have known for a few years, just over an Echolink net, but she's visiting here in the States, and she came up to New York for a day or two with her family, and that would be VU2RBI Bharati. We had the best time. We had the very best time having lunch and having a lot of laughs. And the nice thing about an eyeball QSO with somebody you've known for a while is that you've known them for a while. So it's really more of a reunion than anything else. On the special event front, I just wrapped up activation with the 13 colonies as Kilo 2 Alpha, operating, I would say, about 98% CW, and that was really wonderful. We battled tough band conditions, but we K2A, which was the New York State colony, we had some really, really good operators and some wonderful team spirit. So that's always a joy. And finally, on the subject of special events, hey, it's barely a month away from International Dog Day. Edmund and Ed, there's International Dog Day and International Cat Day, which will be happening in August, and we are into our final planning and channeling the spirit of WRTC. We have done a little bit of testing of our own here and there using the Hamlog online platform, which will enable certificates to be given this year for clean sweeps and for contacts made across the group of international stations that are cooperating across the pond to add more excitement for our chasers. And that's it, Martin. I'll send it back to you.
Yeah, your special event station, I wish you every success, and we really ought to promote this a lot better. I'll talk to Colin later on this one. Right. Dan, what have you been up to since the last time we spoke?
Well, we had a great field day here. It was, just wonderful. We had a lot of participation. We easily had more than 50 people show up, lots of visitors. I didn't do as much operating as I did last year, so my QSO totals were kind of down. But I ran the GOTA station to get on the air station, and like I said, we had lots of visitors. We got some kids on the air, we got some adults on the air, and showed them around the field day site. And one visitor sort of sticks out. She was so interested in this that she even came back to help us tear down, which was really great. If we're talking about special event stations coming up, in August we have the National Lighthouse Weekend, which is I think it's the first weekend in August, or the first full weekend. And then there's the International Lighthouse and Lightship Weekend, which is held on the third full weekend in August. And that this year will be on the 16th and 17th of August. So it's those are events to get on and activate lighthouses. Maybe I hope I haven't stolen your thunder there, Edmund, but that's about it. Doing some POTA, and yeah, that's it. Back to you.
Yeah, well, I'm sure Edmund will be doing the lighthouses, but I'll bring Edmund in. I think I'll bring you in last, Edmund, so don't panic. But I spent a lot of time with Ed and Edmund down there in Friedrichshafen. We had a great time. Ed, what have you been up to apart from including Friedrichshafen?
There you go, jumps in trying to steal me thunder again. Yeah, no, top of my list was definitely Ham Radio Friedrichshafen, and top of the list because every time we go there, we get a lovely welcome from the organisers. We get great facilities, we get well fed, and the event always runs like clockwork. So it's like a home from home in many ways. Attendance there was up a little bit this year. At least it's not going down, which is positive. And yeah, you'll hear a lot about what was actually going on there in the feature in this show, and I'm presuming the next show as well. And we've got some video and audio. And one thing there that I suppose everybody's talking about is the fact that the CW speed record was broken. So by a young 13-year-old boy, CW reception. Amazing thing. I'm not a CW op, but boy, how on earth he managed it, I still don't know. Anyway, so Ham Radio was a great weekend, and the weather was nice as well. For often is, but sometimes you get rain. Apart from that, I've been trying to do POTA activations from my bicycle, or POTA, or in fact GMA activations. Alongside all that, I've had to fit that around a lot of book editing that I'm doing. There's a new book coming out that will be available at the Newark Hamfest in the UK and worldwide, of course. And apart from that, Karen's mentioned it, preparation and testing and training people for the International Dog Day, International Cat Day in August. And also, there's a couple of the stations will be combining that with International Lighthouse Weekend as well, so that the special event call signs for IDD and ICD may also be in use for ILLW. So, preparations, but it's always better to prepare and test in advance, as we were saying, so that when the actual event comes, nothing goes wrong. Back to you, Martin.
Yeah, sounds like you've been busy, mate. Sounds like you've been busy. It was great to spend time with you in Germany. There was one event which I'm not sure if Edmund's going to mention, but probably isn't for the podcast, but I'll tell you about it later. But yeah, all in all, a great time we had. Now, Edmund, you had to put up with me for best part of a week. What have you been up to as well since the last time you were on the podcast?
Well, I've been to Friedrichshafen, and you had to put up with me for a week. For the first time ever, and I thoroughly recommend going for people who haven't been. I didn't take a shopping list with me, and I didn't intend on buying many items, and indeed I didn't, but as a social event it was really, really good. If you can speak half a dozen words of foreign languages, then the national societies there will be very pleased to see you and might even give you a few free things as well. So, for example, I unleashed my minimal German on the DARC, and they were so impressed they gave me a copy of the CQDL magazine, which I'm studying. And I did the same thing with the Réseau d'émetteurs français, the REF, and they gave me a copy of their magazine as well. And I even tried it on with the ARRL, and they gave me a copy of an old edition of QST. So on those grounds alone, the ARRL are great, and I won't hear a word said against them. Yeah, I was there, and I saw the CW speed record be broken by the young gentleman from Romania. In fact, it was his own record he was breaking, and the CW was so fast I didn't recognise it as CW. It sounded more like it was the nearest thing I could equate it to was an APRS data burst, but the mistakes that he did make, and at the speed that he was going, mistakes were always going to happen. The mistakes that he made were sensible mistakes, if you see what I mean. So, for example, if the call sign contained a slash, he might have heard it as the letter X followed by the letter E, or he may have heard the letter B as the letter D followed by the letter E, and things like that. So absolutely blew my mind, and he did really, really well. I took a handheld with me. Didn't think there was much point taking an HF station because, broadly speaking, the stations that I could have worked from Friedrichshafen on 40 meters SSB are probably not going to be radically different to the stations I could work on that band and that mode from here in the south of England. So I took my trusty handheld, one of them, worked 13 people altogether, mostly on 2 meters simplex, a few via the local 70 SEMS repeater. And it's worth taking a handheld if you go to Friedrichshafen, particularly if you can do some foreign languages as well. And highlight was working a German gentleman on 2 meters and then greeting him in person at Friedrichshafen because he was wandering around with a t-shirt with his call sign printed on it. That's another tip. Make sure you wear a t-shirt or a badge that has your call sign on it. And it turned out he was the local QSL bureau manager, so we exchanged QSL cards. That was very nice as well. So had a great time, thoroughly recommend it, and I'd not really done much amateur radio before or since. So the next thing coming up is International Cat Day, which I'm involved with, but that rolls around in August, so I'm sure I'll mention something more about that nearer the time. Back to you, Martin.
Yeah, no problems. Well, we had a great time. So that was good. So from my point of view, yeah, pretty much same as always. I've done 2m70 SEMs around the local area quite a bit. I've been on the talk group. When we were out in Germany, we took a hotspot with us to get onto our talk group. Unfortunately, I think it might have been either carrier grade netting or the gentleman had ports closed on his router, and I thought it would be very naughty of me to try and hack his router, so I ended up, we had no access to the ICQ talk group. Bit of a shame, really, but that's the thing. Edmund and I have had mega jobs to do when we get home. Fairness, the bulb blew in Carol's oven. It's a fitted oven. And unfortunately, when I tried to get a bulb out, it all broke in my hand. And I ended up having to remove the oven from the unit, tip it upside down, remove the lamp holder to get the end of the bulb out, which was more work than I really needed to do. On the way back, it was a bit of a nightmare getting home in the UK because they shut 2 of the motorways that I wanted to be on. And also, something hit my windscreen. Now, it was, I think, a big stone or whatever. Didn't split it there and then on the spot, but when I went to go out a few days later, there was a big crack right on my windscreen. So I had to have the windscreen on the car replaced since I've been back. And then, as I was telling the boys yesterday, Carol turned the kitchen tap on and it had a flexible arm came out the top that you could move around and do all sorts of things in the sink with. And unfortunately, it decided to leak and spurt water everywhere. So this morning I was doing some plumbing and changing that. So that was done. Did rebuild one of my hotspots, and we were suffering odd times. So not only the hotspot not working, Carol's power bank blew up. Don't know why, not a clue. Just made horrible noise and went bang. Battery power bank. I've got it to try and take apart just out of interest. But until we need to go again, she can use my one. And I'll try and take that apart. So radio-wise, yeah, a few contacts locally, but not much else other than that. So that's what I've been up to. As I say, but I thoroughly enjoyed my time in Friedrichshafen. Like Edmund, I didn't buy a lot. In fact, the only thing I bought was a few cups of coffee. Not all for me, but a few cups of coffee. Didn't buy anything for radio, which is a real shame. But there you go. Hopefully you'll enjoy the videos and the audio in the coming episodes. So what's left for me to do now is to thank the guys for turning up. I'd like to thank Mr. Dan Romanchik KB6NU.
Well, it's certainly been my pleasure, Martin.
Yeah, great to have you, Dan, as always. I'd like to thank Caryn Eve Murray KD2GUT.
Oh, thank you, Martin. It's been a great one this week.
Hope so. And do you realise I've been quite good recently, and I'm touching wood. I haven't got your call sign wrong in a long time.
Oh, there's always next time.
Oh, true. Dear. Down there in the south of England, Mr. Edmund Spicer M0MNG.
Thanks for having me on, Martin.
That's great. No problems, Edmund. And last but not least, over there in Germany, Mr. Ed Durrant DD5LP. Good to see you, Ed, the other week.
Yeah, great to have you guys over, and thanks for the invite this evening as always. And yep, till another month's time, and we'll be back on again.
We certainly will. So I'm going to say 73s to you all, and we'll move on to the next part of the podcast. 73s, guys.
73.
73.
Keep your amateur ham radio podcast advert free by donating less than a length of coax. Visit www.icqpodcast.com/donate now. For all the news, links and information, visit www.icqpodcast.com.
Now it's time to have a look at the news in brief for me, Colin M6BOY. We start with news here of the success of the Ham Radio 2025 event, which you'll be hearing more about in our feature. But the great news is that numbers continue to increase, with just over 11,600 attendees over the weekend in southern Germany, where they learned about new technologies, including polar modulation, which we'll be hearing more about in our feature, along with a successful attempt on the CW record, and also a ARC remote radio project where basically 15 stations around Germany took part, and as I say, were all logged in using the remote working, which was a theme of the show. So a fantastic event. As I say, we've got more about that coming up in our features episode and in our next episode. So as I say, you'll get a flavour of what happened at the show if you wasn't there. So yeah, really do hope you enjoy those features. Thanks to our friend Edward Shefek, Whiskey X-Ray 2 Romeo, who sends in some information in relation to the HamSCI project. And the Ham Radio Science Citizen Investigation is preparing for a series of upcoming Meteor scatter experiments. And these will be taking place in August and also then later on in December. So it's a combination of special events and a contest to generate data in relation to these meteor scatters using 10 meters and 6 meters. And we'll put a link on the ICQPodcast webpage for you for the contest rules. So in essence, they're looking for people to be CQing, to take part. As I say, not only you take part in a contest, but say you help in terms of the data for the team, for them to continue with their projects as well there. So say we'll put that details for on the ICQPodcast webpage, but the dates you're looking out for are the 11th and 12th of August and the 12th and 13th of December. The International Lighthouse and Lightship weekend is coming up as well. That'll be taking place of the third weekend in August, which is the 16th and 17th of August. Loads of lighthouses always on, etc. Interesting, in the UK, the Association of Lighthouse Keepers are also conducting their Heritage Week at the same weekend. So there's lots of opportunities as well, as same as this year, to stretch out the hobby into people that say just interested in lighthouses and seeing what we can use with those keepers in there. So certainly something of interest. I know it's a very popular special event for the summer. So that's the International Lighthouse and Lightship weekend on the 16th and 17th. JARL, the Japanese Amateur Radio League, are approaching their 100th anniversary. So there's going to be lots of special event stations and activities going on over the next 12 months or so as they look to gear up to celebrate their awards, including a special 100th anniversary commemorative event as well. So as I say, certainly keep an eye out for some of these special event activities. They're going to be starting roughly around about June next year, but lots of activities and lots of special events, etc., to commemorate that special occasion. So keep an eye out for, any special stations to do with the JRL. Right, but now we're going to head over to our features episode, which is the first part of our review of the Ham Radio 2025 show in Friedrichshafen, Germany. As always, we hope you enjoy.
And now for this episode's feature from the ICQPodcast.
Team of your ICQ podcast presenters, including Martin M1MRB, Chris Mike 0 Tango Charlie Hotel, Ed DD5 Lima Papa, Edmund Mike 0 Mike November Golf, and myself Colin M6BLY, joined over 11,000 amateurs from not only Europe but from around the world at Europe's largest ham radio show, Friedrichshafen 2025. This year's theme, and the theme for the first part of our review, is remote operation. We start with the amazing technological breakthrough based on solar modulation by QRP Labs. Their founder, Hans Summers, Golf Zero, Uniform Papa Lima, tells Martin more.
Well, hi guys, and I'm next to Hans Summers here from QRP Labs over here in Friedrichshafen. Hans looks almost as wrecked as I do.
More wrecked actually, more wrecked than you.
Yeah, because you've had a great sale. Every time I've gone by, we've had to wait until almost the end of the day to be able to get to talk to you.
I never actually see any of Friedrichshafen Hamfest. I just sit here and I hardly see anything. It's been very busy.
I can imagine. Now, last time I sat down and chatted with you, it was a couple of years ago in Dayton, and that was fun.
Yeah, I was at Dayton every year, and very good event.
Yeah. Well, you would go every year. We don't, but that was a great one. So you were telling me yesterday you got some exciting features in your rig now, that
Right.
new one?
So I've done a lot of new products each year, but this year I have no new product as such. Last year's new product was the QMX Plus. But after the Friedrichshafen Hamfest last year, I went home and I spent about 10 months working on the SSB firmware update for the QMX and QMX Plus. And it was a huge project. I mean, when you consider the original QMX was designed, produced, documented, firmware, everything manufactured in 4.5 months in early 2023, to spend 10 months just on the firmware for the SSB was a huge project. It actually ended up hugely better than I had ever hoped for. It gives a very good intermodulation performance, about minus 35 dBc for the IMD3, which is comparable with many big manufacturers. We've got controlled envelope single sideband, which effectively better than doubles your average torque power.
Right.
And there are very few manufacturers that support that. Flex is one, Electrocution K4 is another, but most manufacturers do not support controlled envelope single sideband. We have compression, parametric equalizer, so you can change the bass and the treble.
Yeah.
And it's been a very exciting. And since I've launched this SSB firmware, we've had, of course, a big increase in sales demand, double in order volume in April and May. So it's been a really busy time.
It certainly sounds it. And my apologies, he'll have to cut that. He'll cut that
The other
out.
great thing in Dayton was Flex with their Aurora transceiver, the 500 watt transceiver, which is also using polar modulation SSB, the same as I am here. So I can't overemphasize how important I think this is for the future of amateur radio.
Yeah.
Because we spent decades with linear amplifiers trying to force the curves in the data sheets to be straight lines, or to pick out the linear portion of these curves in data sheets.
Yeah.
With polar modulation, you operate the transmitter transistors in non-linear mode. And so they're essentially saturated on or saturated off. So you end up with a very much higher efficiency amplifier with higher performance, lower costs, smaller heat sinks. There are no disadvantages. Apart from you need a bit of DSP to drive it, but apart from that, it's a superior way of doing SSB.
Yeah.
I will never look at a linear again.
Yeah. If I was being flippant, I'd say the only disadvantage was you had to work 10 months on it.
That's true. You know what it's like? We remember the good times and our brain automatically fades out the bad memories, right?
True. But, you were saying to me yesterday, a normal SSB signal, say 5 watts, with your new where you're doing SSB, that would be the equivalent of 12 watts.
Yes, I mean, but that's not polar modulation. Polar modulation is where you split the SSB audio into a phase component and an amplitude component, and you modulate them separately.
Right.
So the PA transistors no longer have to operate in linear mode. You move the linear amplifier modulator to audio frequencies, where it's much easier to get a linear characteristic.
Yeah.
And so, but controlled envelope single sideband is a different thing. If you start off with perfect audio without limiting, without any clipping or anything, and you modulate that to SSB, inherent in that process you get these overshoots in the amplitude envelope. And conventional transceivers have to reduce the gain in order to get that not clipping the PA transistors, because if you clip the amplifiers, you end up with splatter on adjacent channels. The idea with controlled envelope single sideband, it's a DSP technique to remove those overshoots without reducing the overall gain, so without reducing the averages in the speech, and without causing any distortion or increasing the bandwidth. And so effectively, typical speech tends to overshoot by about 60%, and that means you get about a 4 or 5 dB advantage.
All right.
So a 100 watt signal at controlled envelope single sideband will be something like 200, equivalent to 250 watts of normal SSB, which is a big deal. And considering we have compression in here as well, the 5 watts really does well. Within the first week or two of the beta versions being out, we had reports of people having 3 watt QSOs across the Atlantic and things like that with SSB, and it was really good to hear,
It certainly sounds it, and I've been walking around this show and I spoke to the RSGB this morning, And they say you've been talking to them, and there's potentially going to be a new article in Ragcom about what you're doing.
I think it's already written. I think it's for September or something. I heard something about that too. Yeah. Not about just me, but I think about polar modulation in general, Flex's implementation in the Aurora, and my implementation here. They like saying that it's two opposite ends of the market. The Aurora customers are not the same as my customers. It was very funny at Dayton. Aurora, Flex said, we'll make a deal with you. You buy one of ours, we'll buy one of yours. And they start at $6,200. So I think RSGB are kind of explaining the technology, and I really think it will be the future. I really see in 10 years, I think ICOM, Kenwood, Gesu, there's no reason not to do it.
Well, what I think they'll do is they'll wait and see until people have got this, then they won't want to be left behind.
Yeah. I mean, I was very excited to see that Flex did it, because for me to do it is one thing, but for a big, major, sort of mainstream, big QRO manufacturer to take that jump and be the first, I think is a really impressive, forward-looking, brave thing to do. Because it's always risky, new technologies.
Oh, yeah. And the other thing with what you're selling is you can actually build this yourself and take fun putting it together.
Yep. So we sell all of these transceivers either as a kit or as an assembled radio for an additional fee, assembled, tested. The QMX Plus particularly is probably the easiest kit to build because all the SMD is done. It's a matter of the connectors, the toroids, transformer, assembling the front panel assembly. It's really not difficult. The toroids take some time, but I keep telling everyone they're not difficult, they're just boring. And we can all count, that's all you need to be able to do.
Yeah, well, on this episode, it won't be this episode. On the episode we're releasing this week, which will go out before this, I talk about kit building, and I talked about when you do a toroid, you make sure you scrape the ends off the wire clean so the solder matches. And then the next thing is, because at this point in time with a multimeter, you're only interested in DC, that you should effectively see a short circuit. If you don't see that short circuit, your toroid is not in the circuit.
And the toroids are the most common cause of errors, people not getting the enamel off the toroid properly. I prefer to burn the enamel off, so I just put a big blob of solder on the soldering iron and hold the enamel in there, and it burns off the end of the enamel. Or you can even do it while it's installed on the circuit board. But yeah, it's trivially easy to just put the DVM probes on afterwards and make sure you've got continuity. Be careful not to touch the ends of the wire, but touch the solder or somewhere else on the tracks to get continuity. Very easy and guarantees that you've got good soldering. So.
Correct. And as I say, like you said, toroids are often the one that everybody fails on. And I think the problem is when they build kits, they're in far too much of a rush. Whereas if you sit down and you say, right, I'm in the zone, I'm going to be left alone, I've switched the soldering on, that's when you end up with a good result.
That's right, yeah. No, I mean, I have people come here and they say, I'm scared of winding the toroids. There's nothing scary about toroids. They're not difficult. They're just boring.
Yeah. It's something to do with it.
Yeah, why do you watch TV or something?
Oh, don't do that. No. Don't want to watch 1970s brain dead TV. But yeah, as I say, I'm glad I'm not going to hold you too long because I think we've frightened a lot of your customers away, and I don't want to do that for you. So, listen. Great to see you, as always.
Thank you.
Are you at Newark this year?
I have not decided yet what I will do later this year. I normally don't do more than 2 or 3 Hamfests. I already do Dayton and Friedrichshafen every year.
Yeah.
It's been extremely busy. So we launched QMX 2 years ago. Between QMX and QMX Plus, we've sold now around 11,000 transceivers, which is a lot in 2 years, and it keeps us all busy. So I don't know yet if I'll be in the UK for Newark or the Newport, the GQRP Club convention. I don't know yet.
So whatever happens, great to see you as always. And I think I've said it. Okay, I saw you in Dayton, but I actually saw you at the GQRP convention last year. Yeah. I'd forgotten about that. Yeah. But have a good one, Hans. All the best in the world.
Thank you,
on this,
Martin.
and I hope you do lots more sales.
Thank you, Martin. Always good to see you. Good luck.
Good to see you as well.
The big hardware release for the show is the Yaesu FTX1 in both an Optima configuration for high power shack operation and a field version for portable ops. Carl Brazier, Golf 7 Alpha Foxtrot Tango, gives Chris an overview of the new rig to the market.
Right, we're here on the Yaesu stand here at Friedrichshafen 2025. I'm here with Carl Brazier from Yaesu. Hi, Carl.
Hello, how are you?
Yeah, not too bad. It's been a bit of a warm time, but this cold's a little bit cooler, so it's not quite as bad.
Quite as bad. Apparently it's 38 outside and it's horrendous.
Wow, 38 is pretty serious. Okay, look, we've got a brand new product, which is fantastic, and you can tell us all about it. So, Carl, this is the FTX1. There's various versions. You just take me through the whole versions, all the options, but let's start from scratch. Just tell us the basics of what this radio is and what it does.
So this is the FTX1. Comes in two variants. You've got the FTX1 Field, which is just the front part of the radio. And then you've got the FTX1 Optima, which allows you to run 100 watts. So it's like a clip-on amplifier on the back. That clip-on amplifier also has a built-in 3-to-1 ATU as well.
Fantastic. And this does lots of different bands, I believe.
Yeah, it covers from top band all the way through to 70 centimetres.
And that includes, I believe, 4 meters.
It does include 4 meters and 60 meters as well.
Fantastic. So that's the bands. What about the modes?
Modes, lots of modes. So obviously you've got your usual suspects, upper lower sideband, CW, AM, FM, but you've also got C4 FM as well. And you've also got data modes as well if you connect it to an external device.
So lots and lots of things this thing can do. And yeah, it's also got a very familiar look and feel. So looking at this display, so SDR based, lots of touchscreen functionality, the Spectrum display, very similar to something like the FT101. Just perhaps talk us through some of that stuff.
Yeah, sure. So it's got a very similar menu structure to like the 710, the 10, the 101. So if you've been a user of one of those radios, you'll find you'll be able to use it straight away without reading the manual, which is always a good thing. But it's got a few differences as well. You've got, of course, a dual frequency display, because unlike the 10, the 710, 101, or the 10, 710, I should say, it's actually got dual receivers. So you have one receiver which covers HF, VHF, and UHF. And then you've got a second receiver which covers VHF and UHF.
Fabulous. So you can be listening to VHF and UHF as well as HF at the same time, or you can listen to VHF and VHF. There's lots of different combinations there. You were taking me through earlier. My head's spinning a little bit, but it's very versatile in that regard.
It is. And also because it has C4 FM as well, you might be monitoring your local C4 FM repeater whilst operating HF at the same time.
Excellent. And sorry, brain's gone for 1 second. I was only going to. I was on the thought then. Okay, so you mentioned that this front comes off, so that gives us the option to take this out hence the name, the FTX1 Field. So this allows you to walk away with either just by the field version, which gives you just the head unit, which I think gives us 6 watts if you use the battery, is that right? Or 10 watts if you use external power, is that right?
That is correct. So it comes with a high capacity lithium-ion battery. It runs at a higher voltage at sort of 10.6 volts, and it's a 6.4 amp hour battery. So you'll get a good 9 hours on HF or 8 hours on VHF operating time.
So it's a real portable radio. If you're going out doing SOTA, POTA, all those sorts of outdoor activities, it's ideal. It does all the bands, built-in battery if you want to use that. If you want to take a separate battery, you'll get maybe perhaps a bit more life, but 8 hours sounds 8 and 9 hours sounds pretty good to me anyway. But I think you were saying that doesn't include, if you just use the field version, there's no ATU as part of that. You'd have to maybe use an optional ATU.
The key things about the FTX1 is that it's modular. So there's a whole range of accessories that can clip on the back to give you extra facilities. So if you buy the FTX1 Field, it obviously comes with the main head unit and a battery. If you buy the Optima, it obviously comes with a head unit, the battery, and the 100 watt amplifier on HF, 50 watts on VUHF. You've then got a range of extra options. As we said, Optima, the amplifier already had a 3-in-1 tuner, but of course if you're out portable, you might need a tuner. You obviously could use a resonant antenna, that's fine, but you can also get a clip-on 3-to-1 tuner, the FC80, which then allows you to obviously tune like a delta loop or a dipole or whatever. You can also, where the battery clips on the back, the FC80 has like a spacer that goes over the battery, and then the FC80 clips onto the back of that. So it means you can start stacking the radio to configure it to how you want it to be. We also have like a guard that can go around there to protect the dials and the knobs and so on. We also do things like a Bluetooth module as well, and also a GPS module. And we also have a 10-watt 10-to-1 tuner, which is coming soon. So a very configurable system.
Got so lots of things there. So if you've got specific requirements, you can really tailor it specifically to what you need. So if you want to work out, portably, you want to put it in your car, you want to use it with a Bluetooth headset, all the options are there. I did quite like the handles, by the way. You mentioned that the thing where you've got the handles that protect they protect the knobs and the display, that sort of thing. So that's pretty cool. I can imagine that's pretty useful, especially if you're going out, in the field where you might get knocked over, that sort of thing. I think that could be quite a useful feature.
Yeah, it is indeed. And the fact that you can configure it to how you want it to be is one of the most useful.
And you're also saying if you buy the fill, i.e. just the front part of this, you can later buy the back part and upgrade it into the Optima as well, that's right?
Yes, that's correct. So the amplifier is available at SBA1, and you can buy that in the future and then upgrade your field.
Cool. And we're currently in June 2025. You can't buy this yet in Europe, I believe, but it is coming fairly soon. Is that right?
Soon. We're hoping for availability in August.
But dealers are taking pre-orders, I think, at the moment.
Yeah, that's right.
Fantastic. Carl, anything else you want to talk about? I know this can do a huge amount of things. Anything else you want to point out before we wrap things up?
No.
I think that covers the main points. It's certainly, my takeaway is a very flexible radio, lots of options, all the bands, all the modes you probably want to use.
Small thing I would like to mention, of course, you've got multiple antenna ports on the SBA1 amplifier. So you've actually got 2 HF antenna ports, which you can configure like for receive, transmit, or receive. And you've also got a separate port for VHF, UHF.
Got it. That's good. So at home, then you can have multiple aerials connected. Press a button just to change the aerial.
Yep, that's right.
Fantastic, Carl. If anyone wants to want any more information about this radio or any of the other radios that you got here on display, where would they go?
Well, obviously, if they're visiting here at Friedrichshafen, they can come to our stand. We can demonstrate it. We've got brochures as well they can take away. And there's also information on our website that they can download.
Fantastic. Carl, thank you very much and best of luck for the show.
Thank you.
Now, interviews like these would not be possible without the support and time given by not only by the interviewees, but the generosity of our presenters who travel many miles by plane, sea and car at their own expense. As per our policy, no interviewee pays or takes advertising to be featured in the podcast. If you've gained any value from this podcast or the feature, please consider sending some value back to us. And if you think about what value you might consider, well, for example, a one-day ticket to the Ham Radio 2015 show costs €15, which is approximately £13 sterling or $18. A coffee in Germany is €4, and an ice cream dessert for Mrs. B costs €10, just to give you an indication of maybe the value you might consider. The easiest way to send your support is by going to our special webpage, ICQPodcast.com/donate. Now, not to be left out in the new hardware release frenzy, Electrocution had their new KH1, a portable CW radio, along with all their other innovations for remote radio control. Chris had the joy of chatting to Eric Swartz, Whiskey Alpha 6, Hotel, Quebec.
So we're here on the Lutz Electronics stand, which is a Swiss amateur radio dealer, here at Friedrichshafen 2025. I'm joined by Eric Swartz. WA6HHQ, who's from Elecrafts.
Yes.
There's lots of Elecraft products for sale here. So welcome, Eric.
Oh, thank you. It's good to be here.
Good to be here again. And we met you, I think, over in Dayton last time, I think. So
Yeah.
but there's a few things that have happened since.
Yeah.
Which we'll perhaps talk through. Now, perhaps we'll start with remote operation. The theme of this year's events is remote radio connecting the world. And I see you were showing me a minute ago a whole bunch of ways you can connect to an aircraft radio. So perhaps you can talk us through that.
Oh, sure. We've been doing remote radio for some time. Thanks again for having me. It's good to see you guys. As we mentioned earlier, I'm getting blinded by all the orange shirts here, but it's good for my jet lag. It keeps me awake. So at least I'll be awake for this interview for a little while. So thanks a lot. Yeah, we've been big remote fans for a long time. I've been remoting personally, even through my local repeater I built, for instance, for HF for, last 20 years. But I always, as the internet got faster and so on, we've fully been involved all the way back to the K3 days with remote capability for our radios. And so we've got our complete remote control line of the K4 here at the show, and that covers everything from the first introduction we did this last year was K4 controlling another K4. So any person can control their best friend that has the bigger antenna system, they could control that one. Once you connect, and it's actually built into every K4 radio, you can use their antennas, whatever their amplifier might be hooked up, and so on. So if your friend has the big antenna that you want to work DX on, you can use his.
And I think I saw that demonstrated, at Dayton, where you literally control this one, and the other one was just following along. Which
yeah, and we can have multiple. Yeah, we can actually have multiple connections to the same radio.
So you can all fight over the controls.
No, you have to have some back communication channel. Yeah. So you say it's my turn, so the other person doesn't start turning the knob in the opposite direction. That can get confusing. But we basically have the ability to control K4 to K4. There's just a screen. That's a menu screen that pops up and gives you, here's the stations you've saved the internet address for and the password, and click on the button, and within a second or two it connects to that station, and you can talk whatever that station's capable of around the world, that K4 station. We also have brought out now several new remote options to control a remote K4. We've got software-based ones, like you see here on an iPad. This is actually, we've cooperated with Marcus Roshkosh, who has K4 Control, it's called. And he has also been known, he did the same kind of software for most all the other radios, ICOMs, Flexes, and so on. He's very well known out of Germany. And so he's done that, and that's available in the Apple App Store. He currently has versions for the iPad, which I'm showing just statically here on the screen.
Yeah.
And also for the Macintosh.
Sure.
So I have a MacBook Air on the table that's also operating remote, and these were all controlling our California stations.
Yeah, you told me earlier. This tablet is currently linked up to your California home station. Yeah. So that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, we have a little Wi-Fi hotspot here in the booth, so we can connect quickly to them from the tablet and the other desktop. We also developed, or finishing up. These are both available right now in the Apple App Stores for the Mac or the iPad. We've also developed a program called VK4, Virtual K4. And that is the same kind of software. It does not look identical because we developed it separately for Windows, and that can work on the latest Windows systems like Windows 10 or Windows 11 on a desktop PC or on a laptop or portable. We happen to have it right now running on a Surface tablet.
Okay.
And it's probably program's about 90% complete. We had a personnel change in the engineering side, so I had to bring a different person to work on it. And that person has just been getting going recently. There's just about 10% left to finish. Actually, it's functional now. We can do Morse code and sideband, but a few minor features we saw were missing, so you want to get those in to get it released. But in any case, so we cover those platforms to communicate. And then the latest thing we did, and I may reach up and grab it here in a second if nobody's looking at it, is a remote control panel that looks just like a K4 front panel. It is a K4 front panel. And I'll put it in there's the microphone. Catch the microphone. This is live, folks, live and direct. And I don't have the battery inside it right now. We also can run this off of a lithium-ion battery inside. This is a K4 Zero, which means no RF coming out. But it's the exact same K4 front panel that's on a regular K4. And it has a small single board computer that does all the graphics. Everything is identical operationally to a K4. Matter of fact, if you weren't paying attention to the fact this is much shorter than a regular K4, you cannot tell.
You wouldn't know.
You can't tell the difference on a good connection.
Very cool.
So we had that operating yesterday, for instance. We were using a iPhone or the Lutz's cell phone to be a local hotspot. And this has Wi-Fi built in, so we can connect to a Wi-Fi hotspot. And they were controlling their station over in Switzerland.
Wow.
And working a bunch of stations DX live and actually videoing it. And they put it up on their Facebook page. People could see that. So this has become very popular. We've already taken deposits from people.
So for those folks that like knobs and buttons and switches, this is the option to go for.
This is the ultimate. Yes, this is the best. The best. If contest stations maybe need, people can't fly to the contest station. Maybe they can operate remotely. So a lot of contest stations, you'll see half the seats are occupied on a multiple radio station for a contest with real operators, and the other half are operating robotically remotely. Not with a robot, but with remote with something like this, or even an iPad. But usually this is more convenient for a contest because you're familiar with the radio at this level, and especially after you've been awake 24 hours.
I can imagine.
Yeah, it's much easier to operate something you're used to physically in front of. So this has been becoming very popular. This is just being released to production right now. We've got all the material coming into the factory. We have some very large orders because I've had a very strong response to this when we put out the call saying, A, are you interested? And B, if you're interested in being in the first group that ships, if you make a small deposit, just to make sure you're serious. And we got way more than those than we expected. So
you've got a backlog then to catch up with the orders then, essentially.
Yeah, but we basically are ordering a lot so we can build these very quickly. One nice thing about this versus building a full-on K4 is I don't have to do any radio testing.
Yes.
So this really is computer talking to the I/O board or everything connected properly. It's a much faster build and a much faster test.
And I'm guessing there's a fair few components that are shared between the K4 and
this.
Most
certainly, yeah. The front panel is identical. We literally, this assembly, the front panel with touch screen liquid crystal display, that's exactly the same front panel that goes in a K4. It comes off the same production line. So it goes one direction or the other. We put slightly different firmware into this one because it's being operated without a radio hooked up. Otherwise, it goes out looking for the other parts of the radio and says, where are they? It starts complaining and stuff. So we made minor changes to the firmware for that. And also it knows to talk to the single board computer in here that's a little bit smaller than the one we have in the K4, but the same microprocessor, same family. This has all the I/O on the back is the same as a K4, so you can put your microphone or headset in the front or the back. So the same kind of connections. You can tilt it up there.
Okay, yeah.
Yep, so you've got analog connections for headset, microphone, and so on. You've got push-to-talk for a foot switch. You've got Ethernet connection if you want the fastest connection and you happen to have a hardwired Ethernet available. It also has USB for going to a computer for logging locally if you want. And it also has inputs for mouse, you can put a mouse dongle on there or a keyboard even. For different functions, like if you
got the USB for that,
yeah, USB for that. Built-in sound cards, so if you're running WSJT or FT8, you can hook up your laptop computer or desktop computer to it that way. So it hooks up just like a K4. The outside systems don't know the difference, so we wanted to make it as simple as possible. It has an option for an internal lithium-ion battery that gives you about 3 to 4 hours of operation easily. We also run off USB-C. So fully compatible, of course, in Europe, and also the U.S., of course, is going the same standard for that. We can run the radio off of that on a 30-watt USB-C charging well-wart. 45-watt one can charge the battery inside at the same time. That's what I use, and there's small ones now that they're not gigantic.
Yeah.
And very, very nice when you're going portable, not to have to carry around a big power supply. If you have a home system that uses the Anderson power pole connection, it'll take that also. They can, you can do one or the other. It's your choice.
Lots of options there. Lots of
so we make it as flexible as you can for doing that. But,
fantastic.
So that's the K40. So we've gone from one end, which is really virtualized on screen. I actually even took this one in an airplane, like a commercial airplane on an Airbus. They had Wi-Fi coming across the Atlantic. And they usually say no telephone calls, no streaming music, but they don't know about us. They don't know about us. They don't block the ports that we use. And I just guessed it might work. And they have a little clip on the seat in front of you when you're in the airplane where you can put your iPad to watch a movie or something, or your tablet. And then I dialed up my home station. I'm listening to stations in California as we're flying across.
You're doing Morse code.
No waterfall. No, I just wasn't doing it. I could maybe, but. But anyway, that was a lot of fun. So
Excellent.
From a remote standpoint, we cover really right now the Apple world. We've got covered for the iPad and the MacBook or a desktop Mac if you wanted. And those are both available in the Apple App Stores, and you can purchase those directly from there. And that Marcus Roshkosh supports those. Yeah. One thing he has nicely, he has built-in FT8 capability inside. Okay. And also other things you can connect remotely, or I think like N1MM for logging or something like that. Pretty flexible, and he's adding features all the time to it also. So we've got that. We're bringing out the Windows One finally. That's been the last thing on the software front, and this is, like I said, going into production right now. Soon, so I wrote some rather large checks this week right. And authorized a few more while I was waking up at 1:30 this morning from my jet lag, calling my manufacturing people. There it was normal time of day, and they were asking for authorization to place some large POs, and so we did both of those. So everything's coming down the pike on
lining
this
up.
now. Yep. So that's what's new from remote standpoint.
Yeah, okay. Now, going from that to the other end of the spectrum, I suppose, like portable operating. So
yes.
I know you've had the KH1 around for a little while.
Yep.
I noticed that Radcom, the RSGB magazine, had it on the front cover, I think, of the latest episode.
I think it was edition. The last issue, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so how I know that we spoke before, that was only available as a kit. Is that right in the Europe?
No, well, it's available as a semi-kit sort of in Europe, and we also sell assembled in the States. But the radio basically is a full, I think it's 5-watt CW, covers up through I think 15 meters. Doesn't go to 10, but it goes to 15. Has its own integral antenna option. Internal auto tuner comes with that. On that option, and also has a loading coil for this so that it properly tunes on the right frequencies. And also you can put, of course, a counterpoise, built-in paddles option. I'm sending with the wrong hand, and I'm not able to send CW from that angle. But this is great because you literally can carry the whole thing. It's about the size of a pack
and that's an entire HF operating station.
Yeah, complete HF station. And you can either operate with a whip, or we also have portable whips like this called the AX3 we came out with. We had some earlier ones. I think you remember the AX1. AX1, same whip, but this one has multiple coils inside so that you can go all the way up to, I think, without an external loading coil up through down through 20 meters. And then you can add, if you add the coil, it goes to 40 and 30, if I remember correctly. This goes all the way up, of course, to full extension. And you can hook up the ground wire right here. These are just for support. It's a built-in tripod. All these pieces come apart. It goes into a little 6-inch long bag in the U.S. standard size for that. So everything is very easy to transport. So it's quick to set up. And so people like that for POTA operation, and it's become very popular.
Something simple. You can take that.
Yeah, and with the little 40-meter coil, if you put that goes in between the whip and the top of this unit when you screw it in. That will give you 40 and 30 meters. You rotate this little knob here, and not actually rotate it, pull off and plug it in, so it can handle high current on a short antenna without the switch getting too hot. And so it's very efficient. And people find, because they can set up so quickly, it's great. Or if you're on the little top of a mountaintop and there's no place to throw wires over or anything, it's a big way to operate. So these have done very well.
And I guess that obviously works with the KH1, but also with the your KX line.
Oh yeah, works the KX line, any radio really. I mean, it doesn't matter. It's agnostic in terms of what radio it hooks up to. It does not launch itself away or catch fire if you hook it up to a competitor's radio. we actually work with anybody.
It will work with any radio.
Yeah, any of the antennas we make works with anybody's radios. Don't put 100 watts into it. It really will take off. I think if you do that.
That wouldn't go well. No, okay.
No, that would be tough. Yeah.
And of course, you've got the amplifiers here, the KPA 500 and 1500, I think.
Yes.
You've got obviously the K4.
Yeah, the K4 over here. Actually, he's controlling his home station from the K4 right now.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
That's how we're getting live data on the screen on the K4 as he's controlling his station. He's been working DX. We had people doing that yesterday also. Just were amazed at how well that remote stuff works.
And of course, you're still selling well with the KX2 and KX3. I guess the postal operations.
Yep, that's the whole line. I'm surprised how well that keeps on going and going and going. They're they just want to keep selling. So we're not going to stop.
That's a tricky question. Are we going to see a KX4?
Not this week. No,
not this week.
Or a year. Probably not this year. No, but the KX2 and KX3, we keep adding software features too. And so at this stage, I really haven't had to make a big change for those. So we'll keep doing those as long as the volume is
and I think you can still buy the K2, is that right? You can
I'm sorry?
I think you can still buy the K2.
Oh, the K2? Yeah, we still make the K2, which was our original product. That's the, you solder everything in, it's through hole. There's going to be 3 surface mount parts that we put on for you ahead of time. Maybe 2, I forget. It's not very many. And we've been making that since 1999.
Okay, well,
shipped the first K2s. So that one we want to keep going as long as we can get parts for.
Yes.
It's the 10-watt version. For 100-watt, we could no longer use the top cover that's a 100-watt cover because some of the parts became unavailable, some of the power transistors and stuff. And for the volume of that radio, it doesn't make sense to do a complete redesign on that. But people instead use the external 100-watt amplifier we make, the KXPA100.
Yeah.
One thing I didn't catch on the K4, by the way, it's not so much with remote operation, but we're also are now just finishing up the what we call the final option on the K4, the HD option. And this is a superhet front end that you can turn on as you need for if you have interference from a very strong nearby station, and it might be overloading the direct sampling analog to digital converter on your radio, just to somebody down the block with a kilowatt that you can see their antenna or on a hill above you or something. Our field day where the antennas are too close, they didn't get them far enough apart, or the expedition where they run verticals on the beach and they have CW, sideband, FT8 all running at the same time. That's a challenge, not so much what they call third order IMD, which is multi-signal intermodulation dynamic range, but what we call blocking dynamic range, where even a signal can desense, just like if you have a 2-meter mobile, and you pull up next to your buddy, and he's talking 600 kilohertz away from you on the input to the repeater, but he's so strong, and all of a sudden you stop hearing it because the front end of the radio overloads. And so in our case, if you ever hit a situation where the K4 by itself can't handle it, you hit that button, and you turn on the K4 HD option, and you've got crystal filters in front, you've got everything protecting the A to D converter, and it's still low noise, very good. And we've got that fully tested out now.
Is that something that you buy with the radio, or is that an add-on you can do later?
It's both.
Okay.
We're going to sell a K4 HD assembled, and that will be out shipping before the end of the year in the assembled version. Probably before that will be the upgrade kits for all the people that have a K4D, which is the dual receive. Well, they all are dual receive, but the K4D can do that on 2 different antennas at the same time.
Okay.
And if you have that in there, then you can add the additional boards. There's 2 boards that go in for the K4 HD option. And that gets you to the highest performance because you can pick what you need. I think the audio is always the best on a direct sampling radio because it's just wonderful to listen to. It's got that sort of very clean sound. But if you need the crystal filters for that rare case where you have big signals right next door to you, S9 plus 60 or 50. So
it's an optional thing if you got that situation.
Yeah, if you have that situation, it's handy. And some people want to have it just in case.
Yeah,
in fact, I'm always surprised because I already have set a sign-up list where people can say, hey, we're very interested. When you start selling it, please contact us. And so we're now in the process of building the final pre-production boards. We did all the changes and lab measurements and verified everything works perfectly now. So now we get about 140 to 145 decibel dynamic range for the blocking dynamic range, which is as good or better than what we had on the K3 and K3S. That's incredible to do that. Matter of fact, it's limited by only the fact I can't get the signal generators to put out more power to make the measurement and see if we're above 145, so which is more than you need. I mean, that gives you a great solution for single signal right on top of you, or multi-signal, but single signal that's very loud is the simplest case to think about on that. And it might be 2 or 3 guys that are on that same, overloading you. But this to get rid of the problem as long as they're more than 500 hertz or a kilohertz away. Now, that said, if they have a dirty transmitter, we can't clean that up. But we can do everything else, make sure our receiver is not causing a problem. So that's really sort of the ultimate. We give you the option of making the radio into what you want for your system.
Yeah, so you can tailor it to exactly your requirements.
Yeah, and if you change later on, you can add to it and upgrade it. So people start out sometimes with just a base K4, then they want to be able to listen to 2 different bands on different antennas at the same time, and versus being 2 signals in the same band. So they add a additional couple of cards, a front-end bandpass filter, and another A to D board, digital down converter. That gets you to a K4D. And now you have selection of multiple 5 antenna receive paths for each receiver, and you can do all sorts of nice things with that. And then when you go to the HD, you get all that plus this ability to kick in that additional high dynamic range, and it has a main and a sub-receiver capability. You don't lose that 2-receiver capability.
We've still got a loyal following among Telecraft's, customers. I know, I'm sure you've got ones that have been with you for many years that have upgraded and moved to the new radios over the years. So,
well, like a lot of hams, we don't always sell our old radios. So I know a lot of people that have
the full historical range. Yes.
Yeah, it takes me forever to sell my old radios off, but we have a lot of people that go all the way back to the K2, K3, they got the K3, everything in between.
Excellent. So. Eric, anything else we want to speak about before we wrap things up today?
Well, I think we covered. I'm just looking around.
I think we have.
If I had anything else that I had. I mean, I have lots of top secret things that I can't tell you what year they're going to come out.
Just let us know one.
No, I never give those away. I will say there's nothing the radios we're discussing now are the premier stuff we're selling for, certainly this year and next year. You never know what we might come out in the future with, though, because we always have lots of crazy ideas.
Well, we'll be here to listen to you, Eric. Once we were there the day you announced the K4, and it was a big surprise because it was top secret.
That was fun.
And we woke up in the morning, we went a date in 2019, and you were there. Got a K4, wow, suddenly it was the big news.
Yeah, we thought we were going to ship that right away, but unfortunately COVID sort of caused a logistics problem like you wouldn't believe, because we couldn't get parts and everything. But we survived that and came out the other end. We caught up with all of our backlog. Everything, I guess I would say, is the majority of our products now ship off the shelf, or we actually build inventory to shelf, versus having all the parts and have to build them for you.
Right.
But occasionally you might get behind a week or two, because the show like this, they're going to, my Lutz is, for instance, taking orders here. They're going to have a big order with me as soon as they get home.
Sure, yeah.
And that will probably suck my inventory down for that, particular products they're interested in. And then, but we in parallel are always building more. So the good news is you can get it quicker now. It's not going to be months wait.
And of course, you've got deals around the world, haven't you? Different parts of the world you can go to. So
absolutely, yeah.
That's and of course directly with Telecraft as well.
Yeah, we sell direct everywhere in the world. For instance, in the UK, you can order direct from us, and really the cost is really almost as simple as the same as you would get going through a UK dealer, except you don't have their markup on it. It allows you to obviously you're going to pay value-added tax and the duty one way or the other, either through the dealer or direct. But if people always think they see the U.S. price, think, oh, that's what I'm going to get, but you forget about all the import costs,
tariffs and all that sort of thing. We won't even go there, but yes.
Tariffs is. Let's just say it causes U.S. manufacturing a lot of trouble because our costs go up, and they're unpredictable right now, as you know. So we're hoping that settles down.
I'm sure it will.
Yeah, we did counter it a little bit in the case of some of the parts that we buy that are expensive. We were able to buy some of them. Actually, inventory was already here in the States with some of our suppliers here. We build everything in the U.S. All the radios are built here, and amplifiers. But the parts come from around the world, and in the U.S. and outside. So but some of it we thought might be subject to tariffs. We were able to lock down what was in inventory with our main suppliers, like for the flat screen that we use on the K4, and that holds us for several months, but not forever.
Yeah, of course.
But I had to give them a lot of cash up front even though they don't ship it to me yet. I had to put 15 or
prepay essentially
50% or portion, just enough they know that I was serious, and so that helped. But it's a challenge for us because we really don't know on every delivery to us what the tariff is going to be.
Yeah,
there's no predictability right now, so that's tough.
Well, hope I'll settle down.
And hopefully it settles down and settles down lower too.
So Eric, look, thank you very much. I know the jet lag is still not quite over yet.
Hopefully I'm making sense here.
You're absolutely making sense.
I'm a little tired. That's okay.
Thank you once again for your time. Have a great rest of your time here. Just finally, if anyone wants to get in touch or has any questions, where's the best place to go to find out about Electraft?
Well, the best place from a sales standpoint, you just sales@electraft.com. If you want more technical information about a product before you buy it, you can email support@electraft.com. They handle both pre-sales technical questions about any of our products. And they'll help walk you towards what the best solution is for you. They're not acting as salespeople, it's more technical guys. But they also handle all of our repair, email, and support. So sometimes they can't answer the same day if it's on the phone, but if you send them an email, usually during the work week, and don't forget we're a day off
different time zone
from this time zone here or in the UK. We're about 9 hours off, but like always a day earlier it seems. So we may not be back from the weekend when you think we're already back at work. So give us a little bit of leeway there. But besides that, they're very responsive. They're interested in just talking to people and helping them solve either their technical problem or figure out what they should be buying. So
great,
works good.
Eric,
that one's support@electraft.com.
Yeah, great. Eric, thank you very much, and have a great rest of your show.
Well, thanks
a lot.
I appreciate it.
Thank you. Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Whether it's across the pond or over the channel. The ICQ Podcast is international.
Herzlich willkommen in Deutschland. 73 de España.
By amateurs, for amateurs.
Not only are the manufacturers getting involved in remote working, I got to chat to Bob in Ibiza, November Quebec 1 Romeo, about the AWL activities, not only in Europe, but also in relation to remote working.
Nice to see you, Colin. This is great to be here. What a great show.
Exactly. It's always amazing. And this is one of the busiest stands at Friedrichshafen. There's always people here, so we're really happy that we caught Bob very briefly. It's a great opportunity to talk about, obviously, some of the things that go in the hobby. Our theme this year is about remote working. So we were just telling about the AWL and what they're doing about remote working in the hobby.
Sure. So a lot of people know ARRL for its product reviews that we do in QST Magazine. And we recently introduced, in the last couple of years, a station called the ARRL Radio Laboratory. And a lot of it is operating under remote now, so that we can see how some of the latest equipment in the amateur radio community is interacting with a station already under full remote and computer control. So when you add a new device to your own station, you want to know, is it going to play nice with my already existing auto-controlled station, remote-controlled station? We were also at Visalia, at the International DX Convention in Visalia this year, recording out a track of forums that had entirely to do with the future of DXpeditions and how remote operating is changing some of that field as well. And you can find those videos on the ARRL HQ YouTube channel.
Okay, that's the important bit, the HQ channel, HQ channel, so that's fantastic. And then the system you were saying as well about checking your rigs to make sure they're compatible, is that something you go to the AWL's website to check, or is there a special?
Yeah, if you follow our product reviews regularly, as new HF equipment, as new accessories are introduced and we review those, you'll start to see that we're building out more content about how this device, how this transceiver operates in an already existing radio-controlled environment, remote-controlled environment.
Okay. And is that a member service, or is that non-members can also utilize as well?
Yeah, I would say that the majority of our product review is for the benefit of our members, but you'll find sometimes content on our YouTube channel too for the benefit of the wider amateur radio community.
And that's also probably another thing to talk about as well, because you guys always attend international events, etc. For the non-American amateur that's coming to an event like Friedrichshafen or to UK Hamfest, etc., these benefits of becoming an AWL member, I mean, they obviously open up these types of services as well, and Logbook of the World obviously being another one, which is coming back to us after an upgrade in a few days after Friedrichshafen. So obviously it's an opportunity to become a member of the AWL to utilize those services.
That's right. I mean, we're well known for the content aggregation that we're involved in. So the magazines that ARRL produces for its members, members these days get 4 digital publications: QST, which is our membership journal, QEX, our technical journal, National Contest Journal for our radio sport friends, and On the Air magazine, which is more of a beginner intermediate magazine that introduces newcomers to the breadth and variety of amateur radio activities.
And those digital magazines, are they delivered via an app, or is it a web viewer? How's that now working?
Yeah, we use a digital magazine platform that's accessible by app in the Apple iTunes or Google Play Store, or through a browser. So all you have to do is join the ARRL and you get access to all 4 of those magazines. But you're also supporting our radio sport programs like ARRL Awards, DXCC, Worked All States, any member that becomes a member of the organization. And overseas, we have about 8,000 members overseas. So sometimes that's bigger than a lot of the national societies in Europe.
Yeah.
But we're really proud to be able to give back to the amateur radio community. The more people who join ARRL, the more fun amateur radio becomes, because we can do more.
Exactly. Now I'm going to put you on the spot. For an international member, how much is it to become a member?
That's right. Well, it's $59 a year for all 4 digital publications as well. But you're a full member of the ARRL. You can even email our laboratory if you have questions. And if you want a printed magazine, the membership journal QST, that's $95 a year. So you have a choice for $59 digital or $95 with the printed magazine.
Cool. Now I'm looking for Chris, who's off camera at the moment, because he'll know the conversion on this, because he goes to the States more than I do. And I'm thinking about $60 is probably about £50 sterling and probably about 52, 53 euros. I think off the top of my head, he's not nodding, so I might have messed the conversion up. But
I think it's a good deal.
It sounds good. It sounds good.
But at the end of the day, we want we want radio amateurs around the world to first join their own national membership society. So join the society in your own country and support the work of your radio clubs. And then if you've got a little something after that and you want to give back to an organization that's supporting the full breadth of amateur radio, ARRL is a good one to have in your pocket as well.
So, we're getting advice here. It's not happening.
Getting the
Like we go. Now, here you go. If, like me, you've been told by your doctor to cut back on coffee, right?
Yes.
What better use could I put that extra $5 a month to than buying an ARRL membership?
I think so too. And there's another track of activity we're involved in. And who's going to take our seats when we age out? And who's the next generation of radio amateur? So ARRL is working a lot in the educator space right now, the STEM space, working with school teachers, working with schools, working with young people, building curriculum. And so that's another area that we're very involved in at this point.
I've just realized someone's going to find the first video we ever did at Friedrichshafen 10 years ago and look at how we've aged over the last 10 or so years. That's what happens.
It just happens. Yeah. We're not getting any younger, but we do. We worry about who's going to take our space. And I would say to anyone who's worried about the next generation of radio amateurs, they're here already. And they're already active and involved in amateur radio. So you might not find them in your club, but you'll find them at your colleges and universities, and you'll find them in your schools. And they're already working with teachers that are amateur radio licensed, and lots of good things happening in that space.
Well, we were talking about this morning, actually, and there was 3,000 new amateurs in the UK last year. And obviously, the States being a bigger market, be more again. And I think that's probably the next challenge, is about how we now bring them into our clubs, our systems, etc. We get them involved, etc. So we can pass that torch on. So some of the things maybe going on in the States that maybe people outside States can look at as examples that we might be able to harness in Europe.
So one of the things that we're starting to do a lot more of is lift up our vibrant clubs, the clubs that are really doing amazing things. And one of the trends that we've found is that clubs that do well develop an ecosystem. They don't just license and manufacture hams, but they're interested in recruitment, training, development, what happens after you get your license, and what's that mentoring opportunity look like, and then upgrading your license to the next level, and then taking leadership positions in the club. Leadership positions in the club means that there might be a future for some of the more significant positions in our national societies and even in the International Amateur Radio Union. Who will be the next leaders for ARRL, for the Radio Society of Great Britain, for the International Amateur Radio Union? It's all about leadership development and creating not just members, but member volunteers. So we're concentrating on this ecosystem. Don't just manufacture hams. And in the United States, we manufacture hams very well. 28,000 new licensees every year, but only a fraction of them get active in amateur radio. And our clubs are a vibrant part of that.
I think the bit I hear from that as well is, if we find a process that works and we can regurgitate that process over and over again, then the time commitment isn't as much we're asking people for. So that moves away that barrier, because there's a process. Follow the process and we have success.
That's right.
Whereas rather than people think, if I become the treasurer of my club, I've got to become a full-time accountant, or if I become the secretary, I've got to devote 20 hours a week to this sort of thing. If we have a process in place that everyone can follow, then it's only maybe an hour or two a week.
Many hands make light work.
Exactly.
So, yeah, absolutely.
So it's great to hear there's those type of solutions going on. Any other really cool things the group are doing in the short term that we can hear about?
Yeah, I would say continue to watch some of the ARRL publications that we're producing. Recently, we introduced a book called Salty Walt's Portable Antenna Book. And Walt is a radio amateur who makes his way up and down the coast practicing with building portable antennas in beachfront locations. And he's having a lot of fun, and he was able to draw out many of his antenna designs and share them through a publication that we just put out. So watch for Salty Walt's Portable Antenna Book.
Yep, I think we mentioned that on the last episode, actually. So it's on the ICQPodcast website as well.
Time and he peppers his book, his storytelling, with visits to local clam and seafood dives.
I think that's important, because you say it is a social art hobby, and sometimes you can probably pick up a book that's over heavy technical, and something like that as well, which especially the new ham as well, it shows them the joy along the way, without it maybe in technical drawings. While they're important, it's also important to get the flavour of the operating and actually, removing away all the barriers. So it's a great opportunity. That's a great book.
I mean, isn't Summits on the Air, Parks on the Air. Those are all about being outdoors and having fun. So why shouldn't we mix in a little bit of food, some antenna projects, some fellowship? It's all about having a good time.
Did you say how many day operators gone wrong because you forgot the bottles of drink and the food and the barbecue? You know?
Exactly.
And then you finish
Like
after
park to park, I'm hungry.
Yeah. But if you finish after an hour and go home and you're upset with me because you forgot to pack the right stuff. So you're correct there. So no, definitely.
It's great.
Definitely so. Well, it's like, enjoy the show. It's been fantastic catch up as always, Bob.
Great
It's
to be
great
here with you.
As I say, and just on off one, I spoke to my daughter a little while ago when I was trying to catch you earlier on, and I said, I'm about to speak to Bob and gave you your American pin. She goes, make sure you say hello to Bob. So you might not quite got her as a ham yet, but you got her in as someone who's interested in you. So fantastic. There you go. So there you go. So Bob, as always, thanks a lot.
Good to see you.
Look after yourself, my friend.
Friedrichshafen and happy Ham Radio.
You too. Safe journey home.
Yep,
No problem. And we round off this episode's review of Ham Radio 2025 with SDR Play, where Andy Carpenter discusses the innovation with SDR Connect with Chris.
Okay, we're here at Friedrichshafen 2025. I'm joined with Andy Carpenter on the Funk Net 24. That's right, isn't it? Funk 24. Funk 24 stands. Yep. And we've got Andy from SDR Play. Welcome, Andy.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Good to see you.
Good to see you as well. And normally it's John, isn't it, comes to this? So nice to see you in Germany.
Yeah, John does them most of the time, but we switched it around this time. And it's really good to be here. So.
Excellent. And you've also got your lovely wife Carol and your son Liam with you as well. So a family event today this time. Brilliant.
It's been really good to have them here. Extra support. It was kind of good because the journey down yesterday was terrible from Stuttgart. So we had a lot of laughs, and which made it a bit bearable. But it's really good to get them involved, really.
Absolutely, especially being very hot as well, isn't it? It's a few days.
Yeah, I'm feeling it quite a bit.
Although it's not too bad in this hall. It's a bit warmer out than some of the other halls here at Messe Friedrichshafen. So Andy, tell me about what the latest things are going on at SDR Play.
Yeah, so we're doing a lot of software development at the moment. We've obviously released the NRSP-ST, which we did back in November, and now we're doing a lot of software development to extend the capabilities of the NRSP and the other RSPs as well. We're focusing on a lot of the network support for things like diversity is the next big thing that's coming across the network, just a lot more software. It's that's really the big task at the moment.
So also the big announcement back in November was this new NRSP device, which is a network kind of plug and go, isn't it, type of device. So perhaps you can tell our listeners and our viewers a little bit more about that, and then we'll perhaps go on to the software as well.
Sure. Yeah, so the NRSP is kind of an autonomous radio, a network radio. So you just sort of provide it power and a network connection, and obviously an antenna. And you can basically control it anywhere, really. It's designed to work both on a local LAN at sort of full data rates, but we've also got some special modes in there that allow you to visualise the full sample rate, but over a very limited bandwidth.
Okay, so it's very efficient then with bandwidth. It's designed for that sort of thing. Okay, great. And looking at the back of the unit, you've got various connections there for Wi-Fi, Ethernet, couple of 3 antenna connections, including a BNC.
Yeah.
I'm guessing you've got things like the flash. Is that for doing things like updates, that sort of thing?
Don't really need that. That was we kind of thought we were going to do flashing there, but now we can do. We distribute the binaries for an application, and so as long as this is on the same network as the machine doing the update, they'll find each other and do the update.
Oh, cool. So very, very clever, yeah.
Yeah, it's we're trying to go for kind of ease of use. So we have an administrator tool that you can use to log into the device, see all its parameters, configure the networking if you need to. But out the box, plug in an Ethernet cable and it will be found on your network. You start SDR Connect and it will find it automatically. We're trying to kind of go for the sort of ease of use. Obviously, if you want to make it available across the internet, there's other things you need to do, like make the ports open the port available. There's lots of notes on the web of how to do that. There's a lot of people who are doing it, and in fact, that's what we've got over here. I mean, the update here on the screen, I don't know if you can see that, but the update here is not fantastic. But that's just because of the Wi-Fi that we're connecting to here. So this is actually connecting to a colleague, in fact John's NRSP back in Bedford. You can sort of control it, tune it.
Yeah, so moving on to SDR Connect, so I can see you're showing us SDR Connect 1.0.5, which I think is not out yet, but it's coming very soon. And this is, I think you were telling me earlier, one of these is running on a Mac and one's running on a Raspberry Pi, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. So we've got one running on a Mac here, one running on a Raspberry Pi, and actually we've got the web client running on the tablet here, which is running straight off of the NRSP back in Bedford as well. So 1.04 is the current release version. 1.05 will be out very soon. I'm trying desperately hard to get rig control into it. It's proving to be a slight challenge. I got very excited when I had my Yaesu FT950 all singing, all dancing across all the different platforms and HamLib, OmniRig. It was all working brilliantly. And then I moved to another radio, which will remain nameless, and it's all kind of gone a bit sideways. So,
well, I guess it's like any demonstration. It's always difficult, but I guess you'll figure it out.
Well, if I could have bought my FT950, I would have done, but I probably would have needed several baggage allowances to.
Yes, a big radio, absolutely. But looking at the three displays actually, so you've got the Raspberry Pi, the Mac, and the web-based clients. The interface is exactly the same, so I guess that's important.
That was important to us, that the application looks and feels the same across all the different platforms, and we've achieved that. We use a kind of a third-party UI kit that has that great cross-platform support, and we just make sure that we don't release a feature now unless it's across cross-platform. We could have released, because Steve showed back in Dayton, back in May, he showed OmniRig running with the rig control, but we won't release that until we've got all the platforms covered. Otherwise, we'll just get back into the scenario where people say, well, you're focusing on Windows and you're not, Yes. So we are dedicated to make sure that all the platforms have the same level of support. So that's what we're doing. So.
And it's very much now, SDR Uno, even though it's still around, SDR Connect is really now catching, if not gone beyond what SDR Uno used to be able to do.
I think in terms of core functionality, I think they're probably on a par. And now SDR Connect will obviously add, adding all the network capability as well. We've also got the module system that's coming. So people will be able to write modules, decoders. So all of that kind of, ADSB, the DAB player, all of those kind of, plus all the different decoders that a lot of third-party developers are waiting to add. That will all be able to be done. So it's quite it'll be quite an exciting few months to come.
Absolutely. So what's new then? What's new in SDR Connect? That's obviously now we've gone way beyond the preview version. We're on to 1.0, but it's a 1.04, almost 1.05. What other things you've been adding in recently?
So the big thing for 1.05 is we're going to be adding diversity across the network. So you'll be able to connect the server software up to your RSP Duo, and then you'll be able to use that across the network. And then the version beyond that will need to obviously do the multi-streams, so the two independent tuners. So I think so diversity across the network's the big thing for 105. We've got some other things like people have asked for logging of users and that connects into the NRSP. So we've got some logging functionality on there. That will continue to be developed. So you'll be able to sort of kick users or limit what kind of goes on there. So we're just going to just keep going really. There's just so much to do. We're just going to.
So keep them busy, Andy.
Yeah, very, very. Carol will tell you how busy.
Well, Carol's just behind the camera at the moment talking to a couple of the other guys, but I know she was telling us earlier she's actually getting quite interested in radio as well. So you might have to.
So she sort of asked me the other day, how difficult is this stuff? And I said, well, so I gave her an RSP1B, and she sat in front of her laptop, and within a few minutes she had SDR Connect downloaded, running, and she was tuning around. And I gave her a small FM antenna, and so John's got a 10-minute timeout on his set.
So it's not broken, don't worry.
It's not broken. That's just timed out. And then she was so interested, she connected to John's NRSP and was looking around the ham bands, and I think she's kind of got a bit addicted to it. So
she might be a convert, might be getting a license soon.
Yeah. So well, there you go. So which one of us will get it first? That's the.
Oh right, because I know.
Not that we're that competitive. Well, we are very competitive, so there might be a thing in that. Yeah.
Excellent, great, okay. And obviously, those folks that are still, I'm still in SDR Uno to a degree. What was there any reason why I should move to SDR Connect? I guess there's lots of reasons.
Well, I think once we've got rig control and the module system, then really that's the idea, is that people that move over from SDR Uno to SDR Connect, obviously the UIs are quite different. So, there's a UI to kind of get used to. We've taken a very simple approach with Connect in the fact that you only kind of need, what's on the screen is all that you really need to see. Whereas Uno you've got everything, whether you needed it or not. And
you can really tailor it, can't you, to show the controls that you actually need, you might personally want to use.
It was quite interesting when we first released Uno, and it was kind of, there's too much information, I can't use it. And so as people got used to that, and now they're looking at Connect and they're going, where's all the information gone? It's just that, we're trying to we're not dumbing the software down. There's lots of functionality here. It's just a different way of accessing it, and hopefully giving you more of the real estate of the screen to what you actually want to see, which is the waterfall and the spectrum.
Great, fantastic. So Andy, look, any final thoughts before we wrap up today?
No, I mean, I think it's been a very interesting time with the NRSP, the initial launch, and people just saying, okay, right, just give us more and more software. So I think that's just what we're committed to do. So I think for the rest of this year, hopefully you'll see a few more updates, and we'll just keep extending the functionality. That's the plan.
And are you getting many folks coming up today asking questions, or
Sorry?
Are you getting many folks asking questions or coming up to the stand today?
Yeah, very very busy here at the Funk 24 stand. Obviously we've got other distributors here as well, Benito and Funk Data Technic. They all do a fantastic job. But Christian and Matthias here are really kind enough to give us a bit of space here to demonstrate the hardware and software. And lots of questions, lots of both how do I just get into it, and very deep technical questions. We're happy to sit and play with the software, give people access to it, ask questions, and it's been very interesting. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, Andy, if anyone wants more information, where would they go?
Yep. So loads of information on the website, sdrplay.com. We've got lots of social media channels, Facebook groups. I think the Facebook group's got over 20-something thousand users now. So what you'll get from there is lots of independent advice and opinions about how things work. And we're on Twitter, or X, I guess as it's now called. Lots of places to find information about us. And if you need to come through the ticket system and ask us questions, even if you don't have one, feel free to do so.
Great. Andy, thank you very much again, and have a wonderful rest of the show.
Yeah, it's good to see you guys, and thanks very much. Appreciate it.
Cheers. Thanks, Andy.
Thank you.
The ICQ Podcast. Come for a moment. Stay for an hour.
Well, everybody, I really hope you've enjoyed the first instalment of our trip to Ham Radio 2025 in Friedrichshafen in southern Germany. Certainly was a fantastic show, and hopefully in our first roundup of some of our interviews you got a flavour of remote working and certainly the very clever technology of POTA modularization. And that's a bit of a mouthful. Right, so we'll be continuing our review in our next episode where we'll round up the rest of the interviews we got from the show as well. So certainly, guys, I really do hope you appreciate the work that the team put in there for you. Right, when talking about appreciation, we got a bit of interesting feedback. So it came from the YouTube channel, and it was in relation to our episode where we reviewed the Zygu G90 1 year on. Paul, VE7 November Romeo India and Zulu Sierra 2 Oscar Echo says, many thanks for the interesting podcast. I agree with the views on the G90's capabilities, and it's a good full-featured radio at the price. However, I fear that it may be a throwaway after some years. My VFO encoder is packing up just shy of 3 years, and I've had to replace internal RF coax connectors. Fixable radio for now, with some difficulty, little or no repair services out there. But someday these encoders will disappear and IPX connectors will no longer be available. The best mechanical encoders are rated for just 30,000 revs maximum, and the PCB is only going to tolerate so much resoldering. I love the radio, but looking forward to upgrade to a Yaesu or an Icon. So that's certainly an interesting bit of feedback there, Dan. And a friend Ed as well has dropped in a note for us to let us know about a spare parts kit that is available from WRTC, is it? WRTC in Germany. You can get a spare parts kit for that radio as well. So we'll pop that link on the ICQ podcast page for you. But certainly an interesting bit of feedback there from Paul in relation to the Zygood ad.
Yes, certainly was. And yeah, in fairness, Colin, Paul has had his Zygood G90 longer than me. I'm sorry he's had some problems with it, but the problem with a lot of electronics is they either go wrong very early or after a fair amount of time. Spare parts are one of the biggest problems because they go out of production. We were talking to Eric Ellicraft on the podcast, and he was telling us that they still make the K2. However, they can't produce the 100-watt module anymore because the transistors they used are no longer available. So parts go out of production, but hopefully, in fairness, I was very happy with the radio I've had. I've only had it a year. I wouldn't knock it. And Paul, you've had yours longer, and not all radios are equal. Some may have a problem, some may not. And like all pieces of electronic equipment, it's how it happens. So don't know, but thanks for warning us that issues are on the way, and the repair kit that's available, quite interesting. I'll have a look at that. Back to you, Colin.
Yeah, I think the other thing as well that Paul mentions as well, that it's a value for money radio, because as he says as well, it's a good radio for what he paid for it, but he's also considering down the line when, as I suppose his interest in the hobby gets deeper, or whether or not his operation changes, or it be that he will migrate to a grade A band. I think that's quite an interesting piece of feedback as well. So really do appreciate that feedback from you there, Paul, and say certainly might help others as well who might be considering the Zygood G90. So thanks a lot for that piece of feedback. Well, the other thing that you can do to express your feedback is show value for the ICQ podcast. And as I say, a very, very simple way of doing that is by visiting our webpage, ICQPodcast.com/donate. Dino Papas, Kilo Lima 0 Sierra, and Philip Heckenbaum, VK6 Alpha Delta Foxtrot, both, as I say, took the opportunity to get ahead of our promotion for this month, which is our birthday promotion, where, as I say, it's a great time to show your appreciation for your show, keep it advert free, and show the value you got for it over the year. We're now celebrating our 17th year of podcasting, and would really be grateful if you could show your love and appreciation by considering returning some value back to us by visiting that ICQPodcast.com donate page. So please do consider us and go there if you could. I mentioned it in the feature as well. All the presenters that went to Ham Radio Friedrichshafen did so under their own cost, their own time, their own commitment, etc. And all the interviews we took, as I say, there was no payment or it received or collected from those people. We select people based upon the newsworthiness and the interest that we think that you might feel in those interviews as well. So please do consider us, as I say, going forward. We'd also like to thank Dan, KB6 Uniform, Caryn, KD2 Golf Uniform Tango, Edmund, Mike 0 Mike November Golf, and Ed DD5 Lima Papa taking part in the News Roundtable. Many thanks, guys, for your time and your views, etc. We do appreciate those from there. Right, well, I think that just about wraps up episode 460 of the ICQ Amateur Radio Podcast. The only thing left to do, Dad, is to suggest you head and find Mrs. B a treat, which is going to be a bit difficult for you this weekend after she was well treated to a fine ice cream after Ham Radio 2025 in Friedrichshafen. I'm going to be quite intrigued to know what you got lined up as a treat for her this week.
Well, we'll find your mum something, obviously. Might not be a cup of tea today because we're well in the 30 degrees centigrade here in the UK. So might find your mum something cool. Certainly find a treat. And there are a few ice creams in the freezer. Hi. So that one could come out. And you said 17 years. We've completed 17 years. We're just going into our 18th year, Colin. God. And when the boys said to me, I keep telling them I only said I'd do 10. And they keep telling me if I ever got 10 right, that would be enough.
Exactly. So 17th birthday, 18th, starting our 18th year this month. And as I say, there's a special donation there for you to show your appreciation for that. So say ICQPodcast.com/donate. Right, well, I'm going to bid you 73s and 73s to everybody listening. I really hope you continue to enjoy our fantastic, wonderful hobby. And we certainly look forward to catching up again in a fortnight's time. 73s all.
Yeah, 73.